Bai Zihan shrank his head, but couldn't help but said, "Captain, why didn't I see that you are so petty before? That's your wife. Isn't she my sister-in-law? I am happy. Am I happy for you, boss? Hee hee." Or at the end, he was cowardly and flattered a little. Li Jian smiled with his lips curved. You kid pulled back in time. When the jeep was almost at the entrance of the alley, Li Jian saw 3 small figures standing at the entrance. They were all wearing thick cotton-padded clothes and hats to keep warm. They looked fat, but they all looked up and cried desperately. Who else could it be, if not the 3 little kids from his family? "Stop the car!" Li Jian shouted immediately. Bai Zihan was startled, but he stepped on the brakes quickly and then asked in panic, "Boss, what's wrong?" Li Jian didn't have time to reply him. He got out of the car quickly, walked to the 3 little kids in 2 steps, squatted down and asked, "Xiaowen, what's wrong? Why are you here? Where is your mother?" The 3 little kids cried with tears in their eyes. They didn't recognize Li Jian at first and stared at him in a daze with some fear. Xiaowen also subconsciously protected Xiao Wu and Bei Bei behind him for fear that they would be taken away by this bad guy. His mother told them not to talk to strangers, especially not to go with them. Otherwise, if they were abducted, they would never come back and see their mother again. Li Jian, what are you standing there for? Don't you recognize me? I'm your 4th uncle. 4th uncle. It's no wonder that the 3 kids didn't recognize him. Every time Li Jian came back from visiting his family, he would basically change into casual clothes. This time was a special case. He came directly in military uniform, which was more majestic and more frightening than usual. Xiaowen recognized him, and tears burst out in a flash. 4th uncle. It's really 4th uncle. 4th uncle. My mom is going to give birth to a brother or sister, and my grandfather and an uncle are carrying my mom to the hospital. 4th uncle, please go and save my mom.
Wow.
Xiao Wu and Bei Bei saw that their eldest brother was crying like this, and they also opened their throats and cried. Wow.
Mom.
I want mom. Li Jian was shocked. His wife's due date should be about 20 days away. How could it be so early? He stood up suddenly, and at the same time, he noticed a series of footprints on the snow. Bai Zihan also got out of the car and asked in shock, "Is she going to give birth? Isn't there still more than 20 days left?" This time, the army happened to pass by here, so Li Jian wrote a report and applied for the use of the army's jeep, intending to send Xia Huanhuan to the hospital for hospitalization and delivery. Although the hospitalization fee is not small, it is much more reassuring in the hospital. Unexpectedly, it was so many days earlier. Li Jian didn't care about anything else, and got in the car as soon as he turned around, yelling to Bai Zihan, "You help take care of the 3 little guys. I'll go after your sister-in-law." As he said that, he stepped on the accelerator and drove away, leaving Bai Zihan behind. Bai Zihan, hey, this car is not too small, let me get in too. Unfortunately, the car had already driven away, and he was the only one left to be a nanny. Bai Zihan was a single man who had not yet married, so how could he have any experience getting along with children? He turned his head and looked down at the 3 little guys, and then tried to show a smile that he thought was very friendly and gentle. Xiaowen protected his younger brother and sister, and took a step back cautiously and fearfully. Bai Zihan. The jeep followed the footprints on the snow and almost turned a corner when they saw the backs of Yan Haoyan and Xia Shuangshan. Who else could it be, if not their wives? Li Jian's heart tightened, but he still tried to stay calm and slow down the car, for fear of scaring them and causing them to fall accidentally. He drove a little ahead, stopped, got out, and rushed over quickly. Xia Huanhuan was resisting another wave of uterine contractions, and she couldn't help but think of Li Jian. After all, it is her first time giving birth, so of course, she wants her man to be by her side. Especially at this time. But it seems that Li Jian will miss the birth of their child. When Xia Shuangshan saw the jeep stopped, he was overjoyed and quickly said, "Comrade, can you please help me?" Before he could finish his words, he had already recognized Li Jian.
Li
Jian nodded, glanced at Yan Haotian behind him, and then said, "Dad. It's me. How is Huan Huan? As he spoke, he walked over and immediately grabbed Xia Huanhuan's hand. He looked down at Xia Huanhuan with concern but infinite tenderness and whispered softly, "Wife, it's me. I'm back late." As he spoke, he deftly untied the ropes on her body. The door panel is so long that it definitely cannot fit into the car, so the person has to be carried into the car individually. Xia Huanhuan's face turned pale with pain. She vaguely heard Li Zhan's voice and looked over blankly. When she saw Li Zhan's face clearly, she burst into tears and complained in a sobbing voice, "Li Zhan, you rascal! Why didn't you reply to the telegram? Why did you come back just now?" As she said this, she was so angry that she punched him weakly with her fist. Li Zhan untied the rope, picked up his wife, and walked towards the jeep, while softly apologizing. "It's my fault. I'm back now. Don't rush to beat me. Wait until you give birth. You can beat me as you like." Yan Haotian and Xia Shuangshan followed closely. Seeing Xia Huanhuan tightly holding onto Li Zhan's clothes, Yan Haotian immediately got into the driver's seat, then turned around and said, "I'll drive. You take care of Huanhuan in the back." Having said that, he turned around and asked Xia Shuangshan to quickly get on the passenger seat. The jeep started immediately and drove towards the county hospital. Fortunately, we had a car and were able to get her there in time. As soon as she arrived at the hospital and was sent to the delivery room, her water broke. Li Zhan, Yan Haotian, and Xia Shuangshan, 3 grown men, were waiting outside the delivery room anxiously. Listening to Xia Huanhuan's painful screams coming from the delivery room, they were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. After a while, the female doctor who was in charge of the delivery came out and asked, "Who among you is the pregnant woman's family member?" The 3 of them recognized each other at the same time. "It's me." The 3 of them were stunned for a moment, and Li Zhan and Yan Haotian subconsciously looked at each other. Yan Haotian had naturally guessed that Li Zhan was his sister's husband. However, brothers are naturally picky about their sister's husbands. Apart from anything else, his sister almost gave birth on the way, and this brother-in-law rushed back. How unreliable. But Li Zhan is still confused about Yan Haotian's identity. Who is this man? He can drive a jeep, so he shouldn't be a country boy. He can't be the helper that Xia Shuangshan found in the village. Could he be interested in his wife and wants to steal her away? In short, they dislike each other. The female doctor was confused and had to ask again, "Who is the pregnant woman's husband?" This time Li Zhan quickly responded, "Doctor, it's me." The female doctor looked at Li Zhan and said, "You are the husband of the pregnant woman? Then who are you two? Why are you here to have fun?" Xia Shuangshan was an honest farmer. He did not dare to talk back when he was scolded. He said in a low voice, I am my daughter's father." Yan Haotian was very angry. Why is the husband of a pregnant woman important? The pregnant woman's brother is also important. I'm her brother, doctor. The doctor looked at Li Zhan and said, "There's nothing wrong with your wife. She's just a little premature and her amniotic fluid broke. But the fetus is in a very good position and should be able to give birth naturally. Don't worry." After hearing what the doctor said, the 3 grown men couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then Li Zhan looked at Yan Haotian warily. Huanhuan's brother? When did his wife have a brother? When he was wondering, several other people rushed over. "Waner's father. Is our Waner okay? Did she give birth?" Lin Yuru rushed directly towards Xia Shuangshan. At the same time, Zhang Hai and Bai Zihan followed with their 3 little boys. After Lin Yuru asked, she realized belatedly that Li Zhan was standing next to Xia Shuangshan, and she couldn't help but widen her eyes. "Aunt." No, Li Zhan. You came back?" Li Zhan nodded and said yes. "Mom, I'm sorry, I came back late. Huanhuan is fine. The doctor just said that she should be able to give birth naturally." Lin Yuru's nose was sore, and she nodded continuously. "Oh, I'm glad you came back." At this time, the 3 little guys also rushed over, but they didn't cry or shout. They just ran over and hugged Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru's thighs respectively, and looked up timidly at Li Zhan, Bai Zihan, and Zhang Hai, who suddenly appeared. "Boss, I'm sorry, I didn't make it. Jiang Hai called to Yan Haotian. Yan Haotian nodded and said, it's okay. At this time, a nurse came out and said with a smile, it's born. As soon as these words came out, a group of people surrounded them. Is it born? How is my wife? Is she okay? How many are there? Boys and girls? The young nurses were frightened by the scene. Whose family is having a baby? 4 grown men came in a flash, some in military uniforms, some in police uniforms. Moreover, whose family is having a baby? They asked how many are there right away? Don't they usually just have one? Jiang Hai and Yan Haotian were also a little confused. They only knew that Xia Huanhuan was pregnant, but they didn't know it was multiple babies. Bai Zihan was better, knowing that his sister-in-law was probably pregnant with multiple babies. How many can there be, if she is just one?
Boys.
As soon as the words fell, another nurse ran out excitedly, shouting, it's born. It's born again. Twins. Is it a boy or a girl this time?
Boys.
Other patients, doctors, nurses, etc. in the hospital couldn't help but look over to see the big scene in the delivery room and the birth of twins. Oh my! Twins. And they're both boys. This is so irritating.
Oh.
My wife just gave birth this morning and weighed a ton. I'm so envious. What does a ton mean? Some people didn't understand.
Ha ha ha.
It means she gave birth to a girl. Isn't a girl worth a fortune? Isn't 1,000 pounds a ton? Ha ha ha. So that's how it is? This is too mean. The onlookers were discussing the matter enthusiastically. Li Zhan paced back and forth, feeling excited, nervous, and a little lost. His wife gave birth to twin sons. Why are they all sons? Didn't they agree to have a daughter? There was no other sound coming from the delivery room, and everyone thought it was twins. Li Zhan asked nervously, Comrade nurse, can I go in and see my wife and children? Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru also hurriedly said, yes, yes. We also want to go in and see my daughter. Just as the nurse was about to agree, another older nurse who looked like the head nurse poked her head out and said, why are you coming in? There's still one baby that hasn't been born yet. Why are you coming in to make trouble? Why don't you two come in quickly? I told you to announce the good news, but you're just lazing around outside? The last 2 sentences were obviously addressed to the 2 nurses. Everyone, except for a few people who were prepared, widened their eyes in shock.
Wow.
I thought they were twins, but they turned out to be triplets. This is so rare.
What?
Triplets? This is really rare. I've never heard of this before, even at my age. A glimmer of hope rose in Li Zhan's heart. This last one must be a girl, right? After thinking about it, Li Zhan couldn't help but hold the head nurse and said, Comrade, my wife is in there. I'm really worried. Can you let me go in and accompany her? Seeing that the man holding her was handsome and in military uniform, the head nurse hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, okay. But you are not allowed to make trouble. Otherwise, you will be kicked out immediately. Li Zhan naturally agreed and was let in. Xia Huanhuan had given birth to 2 children and was exhausted. The hair on her forehead was soaked with sweat and stuck to her face. She gasped for breath and couldn't help screaming in pain. Push. The 3rd one is already in sight. It will be born soon. Follow my breathing. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, push. The doctor encouraged her loudly. Li Zhan rushed to the head of the bed, grabbed Xia Huanhuan's hand, and whispered, Huanhuan, I'm here. Don't be afraid. Let's listen to the doctor and try harder. Even so, the 3rd baby didn't know whether he was born with a Buddhist nature or was born to love to toss people. It took another 10 minutes before he was born. It's born. The last one is finally born. Xia Huanhuan let out a long sigh, thinking vaguely in her heart, it's finally over. Giving birth is so exhausting. And she actually gave birth to triplets. Li Zhan, a grown man, couldn't help crying with joy at this moment, holding Xia Huanhuan's hand tightly and whispered excitedly, Huanhuan, it's born. The last one is also born. Seeing him so happy, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but smile and asked in a hoarse voice, boy or girl? She was just busy screaming in pain and didn't pay attention to the gender of the child. Li Zhan also quickly looked up at the doctor. The doctor looked a little regretful for some reason and smiled. Oh, this third child is a boy. It seems that if you still want a daughter, you have to work harder. Xia Huanhuan. All three are boys. This probability is too high, right? At least give me a daughter. Li Zhan couldn't help feeling a little disappointed, but it was soon overwhelmed by the joy of being a father. He smiled gratefully at the doctor, and all the nurses. Thank you. 3 sons is 3 sons. We'll work our daughters later. Xia Huanhuan. She knew it. Thinking about the hardship of giving birth just now, Xia Huanhuan was so angry that she punched Li Zhan weakly and said angrily, if you want to give birth yourself. I won't give birth. Li Zhan looked at her lovingly and didn't refute her, but he didn't agree either. He raised his head and changed the subject. Doctor, can we hug the children? The doctor smiled and said, of course. A nurse had already come over with 3 small babies. The eldest was given to Li Zhan, and the second and third were placed in Xia Huanhuan's arms. Xia Huanhuan looked down at the 3 little ones born from her belly, and then she couldn't help but frown in disgust, saying, so ugly. Li Zhan also thought it was ugly, but he certainly couldn't say it now, so he smiled and said, what's ugly? They look a lot like the 2 of us. Xia Huanhuan looked down at the 3 little things she gave birth to again, and then she couldn't help but wrinkled her nose and said, so ugly, they look like you, not like me. Li Zhan couldn't help laughing. Okay, they look like me now, wait. After I give birth to a daughter, they will look like you. The words came to his lips and then swallowed back. Just now, they seemed to have not reached a consensus on the matter of having another daughter in the future, so they didn't mention it for the time being. Xia Huanhuan looked up and asked him, wait, what later? Li Zhan smiled and evaded, wait until they grow up, and then they will look like the 2 of us. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing. The 3 little kids clenched their fists, closed their eyes and opened their mouths, crying desperately. They looked very energetic, but they were so small that people were afraid of hurting them when they held them in their arms. The doctor smiled and said, newborn babies all look like this. They will open their mouths in 2 or 3 months, and they will look good then. Then he said, pregnant women should take a rest and stay in the hospital for half a day for observation. You can go home almost today. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. Can she go home now? Don't have to stay in the hospital for a few more days? Li Zhan was also a little worried. His wife just cried so hard. Can she really be discharged today? The doctor glanced at them and smiled. All 3 kids were born naturally. Half a day of observation is enough. Don't worry too much. The 2 of them felt relieved. Xia Huanhuan and the children were sent to the ordinary ward. The people waiting outside the delivery room were allowed to go in to see the children. Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan carefully held a child each, smiling from ear to ear. Oh my, these 3 little guys really look like their parents, so handsome, Lin Yuru said with a smile. Several grown men who came over to look Yan Haotian, Bai Zihan, and Jiang Hai couldn't help but mutter in their hearts, they are so ugly, like little old men. How can they look alike? Even Yan Haotian, who didn't like his brother-in-law, had to admit that his brother-in-law was indeed handsome and upright, and his looks were definitely worthy of his sister. Bai Zihan was eager to try, and finally, it was his turn to hold the last-born child. While gently shaking his body, he moved to the bedside and grinned. Sister-in-law, I am an uncle now.
Hee hee.
The eldest brother, although a little ugly, don't mind, I heard from my mother that I was also very ugly when I was born. Before he could finish his words, he was kicked by Li Zhan. Bai Zihan, are you itching for trouble? You are ugly, but what is ugly about my son? Bai Zihan quickly dodged opening the door. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but said, Hey, why did you kick me when I didn't agree with you? I'm holding my nephew. Li Zhan took the child back in a bad mood. Don't let him fall. Xiaowen, Xiaowu and Beibei also rushed to the bedside. Xiaowen was fine because he was tall enough. Xiaowu and Beibei stood on tiptoe and couldn't help shouting excitedly, Mom, we want to see our little brother. We want to see our little brother. Xia Huanhuan saw that even the three little guys came and couldn't help but laugh and cry. Why did she make such a big noise when she gave birth to a child? Fortunately, there were no other patients in the ward, otherwise, the whole room would definitely be complained for disturbing the public. Li Zhan squatted down and let the three little kids look at the third child in his arms, and said with a smile, "Look, this is the little brother. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, Beibei, you will be big brothers and big sisters in the future." Beibei was the happiest. Her little face was as red as an apple, and she asked in a baby voice, "Fourth uncle, Beibei is really a big sister?" Li Zhan smiled. "Of course. And she is the big sister of three little brothers." Beibei was so happy that she couldn't help jumping a few times and raised her little fleshy hand to pull the little kid's hand. Unexpectedly, her fingers were unconsciously grasped tightly in the palm of the little kid's hand. Beibei's glasses widened, and she couldn't help but jump with excitement. "Mom." The younger brother is holding Beibei's hand. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing. Although Jiang Hai also wanted to hug the triplets, his relationship was more distant after all, so he didn't go forward, but smiled to Yan Haotian. "Boss, I'll go back first. There are still cases to deal with in the station. Xiaoxia's sister will be discharged in the afternoon. I will drive over to pick her up in the afternoon." Yan Haotian thought about it and decided not to keep Jiang Hai busy because of personal matters, so he nodded and said with a smile, "Yeah. He should be discharged in the afternoon. But you don't have to come. There is a jeep here. My sister and the guys can take the jeep and the others can walk back. By the way, I caught a few pickpockets at the train station and tied their hands and feet. They are over there. Did you receive the letter?" He had previously asked someone to help him report the case to the police station. Jiang Hai couldn't help laughing when he heard it. "So it was you, boss, who arrested him."
Got it.
"I'm going to handle this case. I'll be leaving first." Jiang Hai said hello to Lin Yuru and said with a smile, "Annie, everything is fine here, I'll go back first." Lin Yuru hurried over when she heard it and said gratefully, "Comrade Public Security, thank you so much. I'm sorry to bother you to drive us here. When you are free in 2 days, please come to our house for dinner." Jiang Hai waved his hand and said with a smile, "Auntie, you're welcome. It's our duty to help the people when they are in trouble." Then he left. Xia Huanhuan noticed the situation at the door, and then she couldn't help but be shocked. She had a terrible stomachache before, and she didn't notice it at all, nor did she recognize it. Now she realized that the person who came home and sent her to the hospital with Xia Shuangshan was actually Yan Haotian. Since she was saved by Yan Haotian once in the county town a year ago, she has never seen him again. She thought that she would not sell supplies in the town or the black market in the county town in the future, so it would be unlikely that they would have any intersection. Unexpectedly, they would meet again under such circumstances. Xia Huanhuan was in a complicated mood. To be honest, she couldn't explain the origin of the supplies in her hands. This person approached her and her family. Could he have some intention? Lin Yuru now had time to notice Yan Haotian's existence. Seeing that he was so familiar with Jiang Hai must have helped partly for the sake of this young man, so she smiled and said to Yan Haotian, "This is Comrade Yan, right? Thank you too. If it weren't for you, I don't know what my daughter would have become today. If you are not busy, don't rush to leave. Come to my house for a simple meal." Yan Haotian smiled, scratched his head, and couldn't help but glance at Xia Shuangshan. He had called her mom before, but Lin Yuru was probably worried about Xia Huanhuan's safety and didn't notice it. But now, if he was asked to call her mom directly, he couldn't do it for a while. Xia Shuangshan also coughed twice in embarrassment. Although he wanted to tell Lin Yuru immediately that the young man in front of him was their son who they had miscalculated for many years, he was afraid that Lin Yuru would get emotional and lose control. This is a hospital. If he made too much noise, he would be kicked out of the hospital. After thinking about it, he decided to wait until he got home, so he said, "Comrade Yan, it's a long story." He turned to Yan Haotian and said, "You must come to my house and stay at home tonight. There is room." Yan Haotian also guessed Xia Shuangshan's idea, so he smiled and said, "Okay. I just have to go to the ministry. I'll report to the new unit first, and then go there in the evening." His brother-in-law and Bai Zihan who looked like his brother-in-law's comrade in arms, were here, so it didn't matter whether he stayed or not. Moreover, we should give Xia Shuangshan some time to let him give Lin Yuru some information first. After Yan Haotian left, Lin Yuru couldn't help but complain to Xia Shuangshan. Look at you. There is a place to live at home, but do you know Comrade Yan? Why did you invite him to live at home? Xia Shuangshan glanced at her and scolded. You are a woman. What do you know? I will tell you when I get home. Xia Huanhuan observed for a few more hours, and after the doctor confirmed that there was no problem, he was going back. Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan had already gone back halfway and brought the square little swaddling clothes, belly bands for children, small clothes, etc. that had been prepared before, and wrapped up the 3 little kids before leaving the hospital. Jiang Hai came again in the afternoon, and 2 cars took everyone back to Tunghua Lane. Lin Yuru still wanted to keep Jiang Hai for dinner, but was rejected by Jiang Hai on the grounds that he had official business. After Jiang Hai left, Lin Yuru began to make dinner. Li Zhan and Bai Zihan and Comrade Yan will also come to eat in a while. Besides, Xia Huanhuan just gave birth, so she needs to supplement her nutrition. This meal must be rich. Lin Yuru sent Xia Shuangshan to the vegetable market to buy fish. Remember to buy Crucian carp. It should be a bigger one. And tofu. Crucian carp and tofu soup for our daughter to produce milk. And buy a few more pounds of pork because my son-in-law is here tonight and we have to entertain guests, so we can't be too shabby. After hearing this, Xia Shuangshan didn't mention Yan Haotian first and went to buy fish and meat. Lin Yuru started to wash and pick vegetables. Bai Zihan was a very outgoing person, so he rolled up his sleeves to help with the work and talked to Lin Yuru from time to time, which made Lin Yuru laugh. Xiaowen, Xiaowu and Beibei were still surrounding the 3 little brothers, reluctant to leave, but they were caught by Lin Yuru and came to help wash the vegetables. In the room, Xia Huanhuan was half lying on the bed, and the 3 little boys were sleeping in a row beside her, with only their little heads exposed. Perhaps they were tired of crying and finally fell asleep. Li Zhan sat by the bed, looking at his wife and his 3 sons lovingly, and couldn't help but hold Xia Huanhuan's hand in his palm. Wife, thank you for your hard work. Xia Huanhuan was so scared that she quickly put her hand to her mouth and scolded softly. Keep your voice down. It's been making noise since it was born, and it's been several hours. It just fell asleep and calmed down for a while. Don't wake me up again. Li Zhan scratched his head aggrievedly. He wasn't very loud. However, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help being happy that Li Zhan could make it back. She held his hand and couldn't help laughing. You didn't reply to the telegram or the letter. I thought you wouldn't be able to catch up with them when they were born. Fortunately, you came back. Li Zhan remembered that he saw her being carried by Xia Shuangshan and Yan Haotian on the road during the day. Her little face was pale with pain in the wind and snow. He is still scared until now. It's a good thing I came back in time. Otherwise, it would be so dangerous. You have come to the county. Why didn't you go to the hospital earlier? It doesn't cost much money. Xia Huanhuan sighed. I was planning to go to the hospital after Dad came back with the coal stove. Who knew that these 3 little rascals couldn't wait for such a long time? Li Zhan couldn't help laughing. They're your children. How can a mother call them little rascals? Xia Huanhuan rolled her eyes at him and couldn't help asking, Hey, have you thought of any names for them? Let me make it clear first. Names like Zhang Wo and Jianjun. There can be several people with the same name in any village. I don't agree with it. Li Zhan scratched his head. Although what he thought of in his mind was not Zhang Wo and Jianjun, it was almost the same style. He didn't dare to say it out loud for fear of criticism. He could only smile guiltily. I thought about it, but I haven't thought of it yet, and these 3 little rascals caught us off guard. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help twisting Li Zhan's arm. Li Zhan hissed in pain and said with a smile, I can't stop thinking about it tonight. Why are you pinching me? Don't you feel sorry for your man? Xia Huanhuan blushed. I don't feel sorry. Besides, I pinched you not just because of your name. Why did you scold them? You just scolded me. Don't scold them anymore in the future. Li Zhen. These 3 little guys were just born. He already felt that his wife's love was taken away, and he was a little jealous. As he was talking, the 3 little guys woke up somehow, clenched their fists and started crying. Li Zhan no longer cared about being jealous. His heart was filled with the love of being a father. He quickly patted their swaddling clothes and coaxed them. Xia Huanhuan didn't have much experience either, so she took one of them into her arms and rocked him gently. "Oh, don't cry, don't cry. Darling, why are you crying all of a sudden?" Lin Yuru walked in and said with a smile, "Are you awake? Let me see if you peed or pooped." As he spoke, he quickly unwrapped the three little kids and looked at the diapers inside. They were dry and nothing unusual. They didn't, or so they must be hungry. Xia Huanhuan was very nervous and asked a stupid question. "Hungry? What should we do? Feed them something quickly?" Li Zhan. Lin Yuru. Lin Yuru smiled and said, "Waner, are you confused? Such a young child must be drinking milk." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, and then her face turned red all the way to her ears. This. Li Zhan was still waiting beside her. Seeing that she was embarrassed, Lin Yuru smiled and said, "Silly girl, what's there to be embarrassed about? Every mother has to go through this. Feed them quickly. I'll make you a cushion carp and tofu soup tonight. It will help you produce milk." Having said that, he went out to do his work. Xia Huanhuan glared at Li Zhan. You should get out too. What are you standing there for?" Li Zhan touched his nose and said with a smile, "I don't need to go out. It's not like I haven't seen it before." Before he could finish his words, Xia Huanhuan threw a small pillow at him. He could only laugh and say, Okay, can I go out?" Li Zhan came out to help Lin Yuru prepare dinner. Lin Yuru couldn't help but refuse. "Li Zhan, what are you doing out here? You should stay in the house with Waner. Comrade Xiao Bai and I are busy with the three kids, so we have enough manpower." Li Zhan felt bitter, but he couldn't admit in front of Bai Zihan that he was driven out by his wife, so he smiled and said, "She's fine alone. I'll go in and see her in a while. I'll help you for a while." Then he rolled up his sleeves and started to pick vegetables. It was already the 10th month of the lunar calendar, and most of the vegetables in the village's small vegetable garden had been pulled up and replanted into cold-resistant white radishes and cabbages, potatoes, and spinach. There were also winter bamboo shoots, but they couldn't be picked in the county town now, so there were only 3 or 4 fresh vegetables. However, in spring and summer, Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru boiled fresh spring bamboo shoots, beans, etc. in water and dried them. Now, they can be soaked in hot water and cooked. In a short while, Xia Shuangshan bought 2 kilograms of pork, a large cushion carp weighing more than 2 kilograms, and a piece of old tofu weighing 1 kilogram. The dishes for dinner were fried bacon with dried winter bamboo shoots, braised pork belly with dried beans, pickled cabbage, and stir-fried spinach. There is also a steamed pork with rice flour. Sweet potatoes and potatoes cut into large pieces are placed under the bowl. The seasoned pork belly wrapped in steamed pork flour is placed on top and steamed. The fat is slowly steamed out and seeps into the sweet potatoes and potatoes below. In the end, the meat is fat but not greasy, and the sweet potato and potato pieces are fragrant and tasty. It is a dish that is only served when it comes to very important guests. The last one is cushion carp tofu soup. Scrape the scales of the cushion carp, cut it open, and then cut it into large pieces. Fry it with oil first, then add hot water and stew it directly. Add tofu in the middle and sprinkle salt to season it. It is as delicious as you want. The staple food is hand-rolled chewy noodles. This time it is for entertaining guests and celebrating Xia Huanhuan's smooth delivery, so all the noodles are made of refined white flour. In addition, a pot of white flour buns and sweet potatoes are steamed to prevent the noodles from being full. Xia Shuangshan watched Lin Yuru busying around and took the opportunity when her hands were empty to tell her that Yan Haotian was their son. After hearing this, Lin Yuru was stunned for a moment. Then her eyes suddenly widened. She staggered 2 steps and rushed to Xia Shuangshan, holding Xia Shuangshan's clothes tightly with both hands, and asked in a trembling voice, "Waner. Waner, her father, what you said, is all true. You didn't lie to me?" Xia Shuangshan nodded. His eyes were a little hot. "Why would I lie to you? Do you remember that year when Xiaotian turned 5? I didn't buy him a candied Haws. Didn't you blame me?"
Xiaotian
remembers everything. He is not our son. How did he know about this? Lin Yuru was stunned. Then her legs softened, she fell directly to the ground, and burst into tears. Suddenly, she remembered that when Yan Haotian and Xia Shuangshan came back together and wanted to send Xia Huanhuan to the hospital and asked her to go to the police station to find someone to help, he called her. Wasn't it, Mom? Why didn't she notice it at that time? When Xia Shuangshan asked Yan Haotian to sleep at home tonight, why did she still complain about Xia Shuangshan, saying that he brought people home casually? That was her son. She thought he had fallen into the water and drowned. How come she didn't recognize him at first sight when she saw him? How could she be such an incompetent mother? Xia Shuangshan, you rascal. Why didn't you tell me at the beginning? I thought he was a stranger, and I didn't want him to sleep at our house at night. Xia Shuangshan pulled Lin Yuru up and sat on a chair in the yard, and said, Hey, didn't I find a chance to tell you? Just now in the hospital, if I told you, you would cry like this and we would be kicked out of the hospital? Li Zhan and Bai Zihan heard what Xia Shuangshan said and saw Lin Yuru crying with joy, and they sighed and came forward to persuade her. Mom, this is a good thing. Don't blame yourself too much. Yes, Auntie. This is a great thing with double happiness coming together. You should be happy. Li Zhan looked up and said to Xia Shuangshan, Dad, take Mom into the house to rest for a while. The leftovers from dinner will be enough for me, Lao Bai, and the 3 little guys to help. When Lin Yuru heard this, she immediately wiped her tears with her hands, stood up, and said, How can that be? This is for my daughter and my son. My son's first meal home. How can it not be made by me as his mother? You all don't need to help anymore. I can do it alone. As she said this, she wiped her tears and went back to the kitchen to busy herself. Li Zhan and Bai Zihan tried to help but were driven out. Li Zhan went into the house to see if Xia Huanhuan had finished feeding the baby. He saw that she had already done so, and he felt a little disappointed. The 3 little ones were quite well behaved. They fell asleep after feeding and didn't make any noise. Xia Huanhuan also heard Lin Yuru's movements outside, and she knew that her brother was still alive. Xia Shuangshan told Lin Yuru. However, it was still quite unexpected that Yan Haotian was actually her brother. Then he said, Did my father just tell my mother about my brother's matter? Li Zhan was stunned for a moment and asked, You know? Xia Huanhuan nodded and said with a sigh, My father originally said that he would go to the south to look for me after I was born. Now it's good. The family is finally reunited. In the evening, Yan Haotian went to the army here to report first, and then came to Tunghua Lane. Lin Yuru heard the knock on the door and almost tripped in excitement. It was Xia Shuangshan who pulled her in time and didn't fall. She ran to open the door, and it was Yan Haotian. Yan Haotian looked at Lin Yuru and knew that Xia Shuangshan should have said it, so he touched his head and shouted embarrassedly, Mom. When Lin Yuru heard this name, tears first burst out of the dam, and she rushed over to hug Yan Haotian. Xiaotian, it's my fault that you have suffered outside for so many years. The others persuaded for a long time before they persuaded him. Then they took Yan Haotian to Xia Huanhuan's room and recognized each other as siblings. Then they started to eat. Xia Huanhuan wanted to get out of bed to eat, but was stopped by Lin Yuru, who said that she had just given birth and needed to recuperate, so how could she get out of bed and catch a cold? Moreover, during the confinement period, one cannot eat greasy food, so Lin Yuru fried baby spinach and eggs, winter bamboo shoots and bacon, and Crucian carp and tofu soup, which was a special meal for her. Lin Yuru put a small table on the bed and let Xia Huanhuan eat in the room. Li Zhan put some of each dish in a bowl, walked into the inner room, and said with a smile, I'll eat with you in the room. Xia Huanhuan knew that she was afraid that she would be lonely, and she felt warm in her heart, so she didn't refuse. After dinner, Yan Haotian and Bai Zihan both stayed here. Li Zhan came back, and naturally Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan slept in the main east room with their 3 kids. Lin Yuru wanted to sleep with her long-lost son and planned to ask him about his life all night long. But she was also worried that the 3 little guys would wake up and make a fuss in the middle of the night, and she would have to come over to help comfort them. Therefore, she and Yan Haotian slept in the west room of the main house. Lin Yuru was afraid that Yan Haotian was not used to sleeping in the same bed with others, so she asked Xia Shuangshan to prepare a bed on the floor and planned to sleep on the floor herself. Yan Haotian naturally refused and said that he was a soldier and was used to sleeping in the open air and sometimes slept on the wet ground, so he rushed to sleep on the floor and gave the bed to Lin Yuru. Xia Shuangshan couldn't help but complain to Lin Yuru in a low voice. Why can't you wait until dawn to say it? Must you say it at night? You finally found your son, and you let him sleep on the floor. Yan Haotian didn't wait for Lin Yuru to answer and smiled. Dad, don't talk about Mom. I have to go back to the army early tomorrow morning, and the only chance I can talk to my mom is at night. It's really okay for me to sleep on the floor, Xia Shuangshan said, and then he didn't say anything else, and couldn't help but envy Lin Yuru. This son recognized him, and he hadn't said a few words to his son yet. In the end, Xia Shuangshan took Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei to sleep upstairs, and Bai Zihan slept alone in another room upstairs. Li Zhan boiled some hot water and helped Xia Huanhuan wash up before he said with a smile, "This yard is quite spacious. Where did you rent it?" Xia Huanhuan was a little nervous for a moment. Then she smiled and said, "When I went to the county town with Director Zheng to help with purchasing goods, I accidentally met Grandma Luo, the owner of this house. She went to Beijing at the end of last year, and the house became vacant. I was thinking of coming to the county town to give birth, so I asked someone and rented it at a cheaper price." Li Zhan listened, but didn't delve into it. He smiled and said, "Well, then you can stay longer and go back to the village in a few days." Xia Huanhuan smiled. Well, he couldn't help asking, "When are you going back?" Li Zhan looked up at her, then said guiltily, "I have to go back early tomorrow morning." He and Bai Zihan came here halfway this time, originally planning to send Xia Huanhuan to the hospital to give birth, and then return to the army. In about 10 days, when she was about to give birth, they would take leave and come back. Unexpectedly, she hit the jackpot and caught up just in time, but she didn't ask for more leave, so she still has to go back and report first, and then talk about asking for leave. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but look a little dim after hearing this. But due to the nature of Li Zhan's job, she knew that she couldn't ask for more. Li Zhan came to the bed and hugged her from behind, kissed her on the head, and said apologetically, "Huanhuan, I will take a leave after I go back, and try to come back soon to stay for a few more days to accompany you and the little ones. There will be a rice and flour feast and a full moon wine later. I promised Secretary Zhao before that I would treat the whole village to the feast." Xia Huanhuan thought about it. This was when she came back from the army in the spring. The two comrades Li Zhan asked to send her back told Secretary Zhao. In a blink of an eye, more than half a year has passed. You remember this clearly. Let's combine the rice and flour feast and the full moon wine into one. Where in the village can we get extra rice and flour and money to give us as gifts? Don't make it seem like we want to receive double gifts. Besides, no matter how many days you ask for leave, you can't ask for a leave of 20 days or a month, right? Just hold one while you are at home. Li Zhan smiled and said, "I will listen to you, my wife." As he was talking, the three little kids who had been sleeping woke up one by one, clenched their fists and cried loudly. Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan hurriedly picked them up and rocked them. Lin Yuru also came over and took one away from Li Zhan's arms and rocked him while checking the diaper. This time he had peed, so she changed the diaper again. The old one was not thrown away, but put in the dirty clothes basket outside to be washed and reused. In that era, there was no such product as diapers in stores. Children's diapers were made of strips of cloth from old clothes, and they were washed and reused after use. Xia Huanhuan couldn't just take out the diapers stored in the space and use them now, so she followed Lin Yuru's advice and used cloth strips instead. However, these were for newborns after all, so she didn't use old cloth, but new cloth taken out of the space. After a while, she would take out the diapers and say that she asked someone to buy them from Beijing. After changing the diapers, the three little kids cried for a while before they finally stopped. Xia Huanhuan carefully put the children back to bed and put them to sleep, and nervously adjusted their sleeping positions. She remembered that the baby's head shape had not yet been finalized in the first 3 months after birth. If they slept in the same position all the time, such as lying on their backs, they would most likely have 3 flat backs of the head, so they should be careful to let them sleep on their sides or on their backs in turn. Li Zhan was also quite nervous. The kid was so tiny, and his arms seemed not even as thick as one of his fingers. He was really afraid that he might break something if he was not careful. Only after the three little ones fell asleep sweetly did Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan go back to sleep. Xia Huanhuan had just given birth, so she definitely couldn't do that, but Li Zhan's hands were not idle either, so he just wanted to satisfy his urge. Xia Huanhuan blushed and pushed him away, saying, "Why do you think about this all day long? Can't you just talk to me properly?" Li Zhan leaned over and bit her lip, then said with a smile, "You talk, I'm listening. It won't delay anything." Xia Huanhuan. They chatted incoherently and tossed around until midnight. Finally, the two of them felt sleepy and were about to fall asleep. The three little ones started crying again. Lin Yuru didn't sleep well either. She came over to check and said with a smile, "I'm afraid they are hungry. The little ones have small stomachs and can't drink much milk at a time, so they need to be fed several times a day." Xia Huanhuan was still a little shy about feeding, so she let Lin Yuru go back first, and then glared at Li Zhan with a red face. Li Zhan looked innocent and quickly whispered, "Wife, it's the middle of the night. You are not going to drive me out, are you?" Xia Huanhuan. Seeing that he had taken off his sweater and was wearing only a shirt and a thin military uniform, she really couldn't bear to let him go out and get cold. So she picked up one of the little ones, dodged it for a while, lifted up her clothes to feed him, and asked Li Zhan to coax the other two first. After feeding the three little ones in turn, they coaxed them to sleep, and it was 1 or 2 in the morning. The two of them were a little tired, and they quickly lay down to sleep, and they didn't have any other thoughts. When it was 3 or 4 in the morning, the little ones woke up again. He changed her diaper again and coaxed her to sleep. It was already light outside. Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan both had a dark circle on their heads, and they looked at each other sleepily. Li Zhan felt more and more guilty and sympathetic. It was only one night. In the future, he would definitely spend more time outside than at home. Xia Huanhuan was alone with 3 babies to feed, and she also had to take care of Xiaowen and the other 3 kids. Even with the help of Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan, it would still be difficult. Li Zhan gently stroked Xia Huanhuan's hair and said with a smile, "You sleep a little longer. If they cry again, I'll take care of them." Xia Huanhuan buried her head in his arms tiredly, closed her eyes, and tried to catch up on her sleep. At the same time, she had not forgotten that Li Zhan was leaving, and said vaguely, "You're leaving soon, right? I'll ask Mom to make breakfast for you. Don't leave on an empty stomach." As she spoke, her voice became softer and softer, and she fell asleep out of exhaustion. After a while, Lin Yuru came in quietly and asked in a low voice, "Are you asleep?" Li Zhan nodded and smiled. "Mom, I will trouble you and Dad to help Huanhuan in the future." Lin Yuru hurriedly said, "Look at what you said. This is my daughter and grandson. If we don't help, who will? Don't worry. I'll go to make breakfast. I heard from Huanhuan that you also have to go back to the army early in the morning. Eat first, and then leave." Li Zhan grinned and said, "Okay, thank you, Mom." After a while, the 3 little guys woke up again, crying. Xia Huanhuan was woken up, but Li Zhan pressed her shoulders and said softly, "I will comfort her. You sleep a little longer. While he is at home, let his wife rest for a while." However, if it was 1 or 2, it would be fine, as they could be held together and coaxed. But with 3, one would lose the other. Li Zhan tried very hard to coax the 2, but the other one was still crying. He coaxed the other 2, but the other one started crying again. Xia Huanhuan rubbed her eyes and sat up, smiling. "How can one person coax 3 babies at once? Let me hold one." After a while, Lin Yuru prepared the meal and asked everyone to get up and eat. She cooked a bowl of white flour paste with eggs for Xia Huanhuan, added some sweet potatoes, fried golden eggs, and a big meat bun, and brought them in for her to eat. The 3 little kids were carried to the outer room. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru held one each. Yan Haoyan had not held his nephew for a long time, and he did not have time to eat breakfast, so he held one carefully, laughing excitedly. "I'm an uncle. I'm an uncle. Call uncle." Li Zhan couldn't help muttering in his heart, if he wanted to call, he should call Dad first. How could he call uncle first? Wishful thinking. Bai Zihan didn't eat much before he rushed over to hold the kid, imitating Yan Haotian and saying repeatedly, "Be good, call uncle. It's Uncle Bai. Li Zhen." His son, is it useful for you two single dogs to be so clingy? Really? He also snatched his son from Lin Yuru's hands, rocked him in his arms lovingly, and said, "Good baby, remember, I am your father, and you must call Dad first in the future." Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan were speechless when they saw the three grown men holding a little kid each and not letting go. Later, it was Xia Huanhuan who shouted in the inner room, asking them to bring the child back so that he would not catch a cold outside, and the three grown men reluctantly returned the child. As the father of the child, Li Zhan still had some privileges, and he went straight into the inner room with the child in his arms. After teasing the three kids for a while, he looked at Xia Huanhuan and said, "I'm leaving. You should stay in the county first. When I get my leave, we can go back to the village together." Xia Huanhuan couldn't help it. Her nose felt a little sour. She lowered her head and pretended to tease the children. She said with a heavy nasal tone, "Well, go early and come back early.
And
It's snowing outside, so drive carefully on the way." Li Zhan agreed and left with Bai Zihan and asked Yan Haotian to take a ride. Seeing that her son had just recognized her, Lin Yuru had to separate again. She didn't know when he would be able to take leave next time, so she followed the jeep, wiping her tears and chasing for a long time until she couldn't catch up and was pulled back by Xia Shuangshan.
don't cry.
Didn't Xiao Tian say that he would take leave and come back when his nephew entertained the rice and flour guests? By then, he will definitely come back to the village with us, and it will be a good opportunity for him to get to know his family. He will be our Xia family's child again. Lin Yuru wiped her tears and nodded, and at the same time, she couldn't help but scold Li Cuehua and Xia Dazhuang in anger. Beasts, they can even kill their own grandson and nephew. I curse them to die a miserable death. Stay in jail for life. Lin Yuru has been cowardly and easily bullied for half her life. Now that her son has been miscalculated for nearly 20 years, no matter how good her temper is, she can't bear it. When Xia Shuangshan thought of this, he felt that he had beaten them too lightly at the police station that day. He should have beaten those two beasts to death directly.
Oh,
Don't worry. Ask the comrades at the police station. As long as we don't forgive them, they will be sentenced to at least 5 years. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru said, and then went back. After about 20 days, Li Zhan finally got his leave. However, he only got about 10 days. Bai Zihan also said that he was an uncle now and he had to attend his nephew's rice and flour feasts, so he also got 3 days off and came with Li Zhan. After lying in bed for 7 or 8 days of confinement, Xia Huanhuan couldn't sit still anymore, and she got out of bed and walked around every day regardless of Lin Yuru's obstruction. Lin Yuru didn't let her take a bath or wash her hair, so she secretly went to the space to wash. After all, before she traveled through time and space, confinement was not ignored, but in many aspects, such as not being able to take a bath or wash your hair, it was not so dangerous. Moreover, if it was abroad, people would give birth on the same day and go to work the next day. She rested for 7 or 8 days, and she secretly replaced the ordinary water in the kitchen with the spiritual spring water in the space. Her body had recovered a long time ago, and she didn't follow Lin Yuru's rules for confinement. When Li Zhan and Bai Zihan entered the house, Xia Huanhuan was holding a little kid and walking around the house to coax him. There was a coal stove in the house, so it was not cold at all. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were all around the bed, happily playing with the other 2 kids. The 3 little guys have grown up a lot and are much more beautiful. At that moment, the family was busy packing up everything. Li Jie drove an ox cart from the village to transport things, and Li Zhan hired a car with a shed to block the wind and rain in the county town. The family returned to Qingshui village in a mighty manner. It was better to settle down in the 2 houses built by Xiaowen's father first. The 3 main rooms on the new homestead had been built, and the doors, windows, and glass had been installed. During the month that Xia Huanhuan lived in the county town, Xia Shuangshan came back to the village and built the east wing and the courtyard wall with Li Jie so they could move in at any time. Therefore, the next day after returning to the village, Xia Huanhuan moved in, and the house here was locked and temporarily vacant. Villagers with good relationships, such as Zhou Qiuhe, Aunt Wu, Wu Xiaoyun, and others, as well as those with average relationships, all came to see the triplets because they were rare. Li Zhan went to Secretary Zhao and asked him to help notify the whole village to hold a full-month banquet for the child in 2 days. Different places in the countryside have different customs. Some places hold what is commonly known as a rice and flour banquet, which is held on the 12th day after the child is born. Some places hold a full-month banquet, which is held after the full month, but they are similar. There is not much money to be earned in the countryside, so it is customary to give some rice, flour, eggs, etc., which is also a good way to supplement nutrition for the daughter-in-law who has just given birth. Li Zhan naturally did not compete for what gifts to receive. Such a big banquet was actually to make up for the fact that there was no banquet in the village when he got married. Secretary Zhao also knew this meaning and smiled and said, "Okay. I will definitely tell you to every household. Life has been tight in the past few years, and it is rare to have a lively time this year." Li Zhan thanked him and came back. If you want to entertain guests, you naturally have to prepare ingredients. Li Zhan and Bai Zihan went into the mountains to hunt together. Li Zhan found out the wild boar's lair in the summer, and it seemed that no one had ever hunted a wild boar since then. Therefore, the two men went into the mountains in the morning and came back in the afternoon carrying a big wild boar weighing 200 kilograms. Coincidentally, Yan Haotian also took leave that day and came back. When he heard that Li Zhan and his friends had gone into the mountains to hunt, he also went into the mountains. At night, he also brought back a wild boar weighing more than 100 kilograms. In addition, Xia Shuangshan and his cubs also caught several wild rabbits, pheasants, and the like. That way there was more than enough meat. Even so, Xia Huanhuan still asked people to buy some mutton and cook some mutton and carrot soup. Everyone would drink a bowl of it hot, which would warm their hearts. As for the vegetables, Xia Huanhuan had already prepared them in advance. She collected a lot from the small vegetable garden and secretly took out a lot from the space. If the whole village were to be invited, there would have to be more than a dozen tables. Lin Yuru alone would definitely not be able to handle the cooking, so the women in the village also came to help. On the day of the feast, more than a dozen tables were set up in the courtyard of the house. As there was not enough space, they were set up outside. Fortunately, the weather was good and not too cold. Everyone came with rice and flour, and then chatted with their hands in their pockets while waiting for the feast to start. Li Chang, Wang Guixiang's family, and Lulan naturally came as well. However, when they wanted to hold the 3 cubs, Xia Huanhuan refused. With the relationship being like this, she was really afraid that they would do something bad. What if they pretended to accidentally drop the baby? Lulan was unhappy, and her eyes were very gloomy when she looked at the 3 newborn cubs. She had originally thought that when Li Zhan came back, she would talk to him and ask him to give her a few more yuan in allowance. How could Li Zhan agree to give her more money? She should be thankful that the 5 yuan was not reduced. Therefore, in her eyes, these 3 little guys were not her grandchildren at all, but the existence that took away her money. Now Li Chang and Wang Guixiang are going even further. Originally, they agreed to give Li Chang 3 yuan and she would keep 2 yuan. These days, she was sick, and Wang Guixiang and Li Chang took all the 5 yuan on the grounds that they were spending money on her medical treatment. Therefore, she has no money at all. Without money, she has no one to rely on. She has to live according to Wang Guixiang's eyes. If she eats a little more, she will be scolded by Wang Guixiang. She doesn't even dare to eat her fill. Lulan chased Li Zhan eagerly, wanting to find a chance to talk to him, but Li Zhan didn't know whether it was intentional or unintentional. Anyway, he was too busy to talk to her. Lulan was so angry that her heart ached, but she still couldn't bear to eat. After all, if she didn't eat more at the table, she would go back hungry. The dishes on the table were quite rich. 2 big wild boars, cold mixed pig head and face, cold mixed pig ears, braised pork legs, steamed crispy spare ribs, braised pork belly, fat and lean meat slices with sweet potato cubes and soaked dried beans under them. The fat is not greasy after steaming, and it breaks into pieces with chopsticks. There are also fried pork liver with celery, fried large intestine with garlic sprouts, fried pork with cabbage, sweet and sour spare ribs, braised pork, fried eggs with leeks. Finally, there is a pot of mutton and radish soup so that everyone can eat a lot of mutton. Although the staple food is not pure refined grain, it is also mixed flour steamed buns and pancakes, and it is full. This meal has long exceeded the rice, flour, and coarse grains they brought as gifts. Therefore, the whole village praised Li Zhan and Xia Huanhuan. Look at the banquet they are preparing for their guests. The couple is so generous. After all, they have 3 big fat sons at once, so they should be happy. Zhang Laosen, look how capable you are. Don't you have 2 sons at home? Why haven't I seen you prepare such a generous banquet? That's right. Last time I went to Zhang Laosen's house for a banquet, there seemed to be only 1 meat dish, and it took me a long time to find a meat.
Oh.
Tell me, why can't we catch a wild boar? Look at them. Catching one is not enough, they caught 2. If I could catch 2, I would be so generous too. You are bragging again. If you could catch a wild boar, why wouldn't you hide it, for fear that others would know? The women are now envious of Xia Huanhuan. Alas, they are all women, look at the life they lead. When they entered the house, Lulan was so vicious that she refused to hold a wedding banquet for them. Look at what her husband did. He directly took his wife to the army to hold the wedding. Now that she has 3 big fat sons, he is treating the whole village to a banquet. I heard from Secretary Zhao that there is actually another layer of meaning behind this, which is to hold a wedding in the village. That's right. It's really enviable. If my man is 1/10 as good as Li Zhan, no, 100th as good as him, I will be satisfied. Xia Huanhuan didn't eat much. She went to the kitchen, prepared some of each dish, put them in a bamboo basket, and sneaked out of the back door when no one was paying attention. She had noticed before that because the new house was close to the edge of the village, there were usually not many people. In particular, there was a hidden mountain trail behind the house, which could turn halfway and go directly to the cowshed. It would be much more convenient to visit Shen Wanqiue and Yang Qiushi in the future. Moreover, it was difficult to carry the 3 little ones to them for fear that they would cry, but in the future, they could also come over secretly under the cover of night. Xia Huanhuan asked Xia Shuangshan to leave a back door in the backyard, saying that it would be more convenient to go up the mountain in the future. Now they went out from the back door and secretly delivered the food to the cowshed. Xia Huanhuan usually did not have much contact with the Educated Youth Point, so the educated youth from the Educated Youth Point were not invited to the full moon banquet. As for the cowshed, Li Zhan's identity was there, so he could not be invited. He could only secretly send them some food. Shen Wanqiue, Yang Qiushi, and several other people in the cowshed were sifting grass to feed the cows. The commune had a good harvest this year, and after paying the public grain, Secretary Zhao asked for everyone's opinions and reserved a portion of the grain that was to be distributed to each household according to work points to sell to the grain station. He also sold a big fat pig for 200 yuan and bought 2 calves. In this way, when the summer and autumn harvests come next year, there will be 3 oxen to pull the plow and cultivate the land, which will make life a lot easier. However, this will make the tasks in the cowshed a lot more arduous. Shen Wanqiue raised her head with back pain and glanced at the new house of Xia Huanhuan's family from a distance, feeling a little anxious. After living together for more than a year, she has already regarded Xia Huanhuan as her own daughter. Now she only knows that she has successfully given birth to triplets, all of whom are big fat boys, but she hasn't had a chance to take a look at them yet. Unexpectedly, when she looked up, she saw Xia Huanhuan walking towards her with a basket. Shen Wanqiue was so scared that she quickly put down the fork she was using to fork the fodder, ran out and pulled her to a secluded place, and whispered anxiously, "Why did you come here in broad daylight? What if someone sees us?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Auntie, it's okay. All the men, women, and children in the village are having a feast at our house, and the road leading to our new house is off the beaten track, so no one can see us. I thought that I couldn't invite you and the master to the feast, so I brought some food here to suit the occasion." Shen Wanqiue was touched and had no temper. "Child, you are so busy at home today, and you still care about us.
Come on.
Come in with me, and sit down. I'll wait for a while to avoid being seen by others. After entering the house, Shen Wanshue couldn't wait to ask, how are the three little ones? I heard that they are white and plump, like you and Li Zhan. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, they have grown up in the past 2 days and are a little better looking. When they were just born, they were skinny and small like 3 monkeys. Shen Wanshue was amused by what she said. How can you say that about your own children? Newly born babies are like that. As she said this, she couldn't help but think of her own son. He was fostered in a farmer's house when he was just 3 days old. He didn't even see what he looked like when he grew up. However, she quickly forced herself to stop thinking about it. Xia Huanhuan gave birth to triplets. What a happy event it was. She was not Xianglin Sa. It would be so disappointing to mess up her own sad story. Xia Huanhuan said with a smile, the 3 little ones are crying so hard that it's not easy to bring them here for you and the master to see. But you can come quietly from the cowshed at night and go to my house to see them. It's the same. Shen Wanshue couldn't help but feel happy when she heard it. Can we really go over to see them? Isn't it too risky?
It's okay.
There are basically no people walking on this road from here to my backyard, and no one will pay attention to it at night. Shen Wanshue said with a smile. Oh, that's great. I'll discuss it with Lao Yang and go over there in the evening. Xia Huanhuan took out the food from the bamboo basket. In addition to the food on the table, she also brought 2 kilograms of white flour, 2 kilograms of sweet potato flour, 2 kilograms of sweet potatoes, and 2 kilograms of pork so that they could cook and eat by themselves. Shen Wanshue didn't think him out of turn. These days, she received so many material aids from Xia Huanhuan, and she never spared any medicinal materials such as ginseng and angelica. That was a life-saving favor. How could she repay it with a few words of thanks? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, we have moved to the new house now, so we can have closer contact in the future. I will bring less each time to avoid danger. After talking for a while, Xia Huanhuan went back first. After all, there was a banquet at home, and Guang Linyuru, the 3 cubs, could not stand alone. She had been away for too long, which aroused suspicion. Shen Wanshue's heart moved, and she asked hesitantly, Huanhuan, Li Zhan is also at home tonight, right? She had been thinking about taking a look at Li Zhan's appearance, but she never got a chance. At most, she could only look at him from a distance, but she couldn't see clearly. Although there was little hope, she would not be able to live without even this thought. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, yes. He finally got 10 days of leave, and he should be able to be at home during these days. Auntie, don't be cautious. I have told him about you and the master, and he has no objection to my relationship with him. We come and go here. Xia Huanhuan thought that Shen Wanshue was worried about this, so she smiled and reassured. Shen Wanshue couldn't explain it, so she nodded and smiled. Oh, Auntie is not formal. Annie knows that he is a good person, otherwise he wouldn't have helped me carry water last time. Even if he is not her child, he can ignore her. He picked up the pole to carry water for her without saying a word. His character is beyond words. Shen Wanshue sent Xia Huanhuan out, and after she was gone, she went back to sift fodder, fetch and feed water to the cows, and wash herself. After working for a while, it was time to eat. Shen Wanshue secretly distributed some of the steamed buns and meat dishes that Xia Huanhuan had brought over to the people in the cowshed. She also gave some of the food and the like to each house in the evening. In the past 6 months, Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi have divided some of the things Xia Huanhuan sent. On the one hand, the feeling of being a fallen person in the end of the world is on the one hand. On the other hand, the cowshed is so big. Even the people who lived here used to be educated and distinguished people. However, Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi were living alone. As time went by, it was difficult to keep apart. People are not jealous, but feel dirty. This is the most basic human nature. Don't test human nature. This is what Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi have learned after living for most of their lives. Only when everyone benefits and there is no other better solution can the secret be kept for a long time. Xia Huanhuan naturally knew these things, but she would not bring too many supplies here because of this, and she still pretended not to know. All the favors here belong to Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi. After working all morning, everyone was in a good mood now that they could eat delicious fried crispy ribs, steamed pork with sweet potato cubes, scrambled eggs, etc., as well as hot beef soup. After dinner, everyone continued to work in the cowshed. At this time, Fu Qingye and a male-educated youth ran to the cowshed and said with a smile to Yang Qiushi and other people in the cowshed, "Uncle Yang, we don't have enough firewood for cooking over there. We haven't had time to pick it up yet. Why don't you give us fodder? Let's take some back and use them to light the fire." Although her expression was smiling, anyone could hear the arrogance in her words. With that said, without waiting for the people in the cowshed to respond, he directed the male-educated youth to grab the fodder. A few educated youths were used to doing this kind of thing. Fu Qingye didn't imitate the good ones and imitated the bad ones, so he quickly got mixed up with them, so he thought that this time would be similar to the past. Unexpectedly, this time he was stopped by Yang Qiushi. Yang Qiushi had a strong temper and was impatient. He immediately stood up and stopped the male-educated youth. "Hey, you are not allowed to hold me. This fodder is all for feeding cattle. What a shame to light the fire. If you don't have enough firewood, go to the mountain to collect it yourself. How can we come here to get fodder for the cows? The cows still have grass to eat in the summer, but in the winter, they can only eat hay. As for hay, more is cut in the summer, dried and stored, and the other is wheat or corn straw. Normally they would just tolerate it, but this year they bought 2 new calves and there wasn't enough fodder. If they were allowed to waste it, they would be criticized if the cows were not fed well." The other 2 people also stood up and said, "That's right. Fu Jiqing, Lu Jiqing, please bear with me. I bought 2 new calves this year. The fodder is really not enough." Fu Qingye couldn't help but frown slightly, but she didn't dare to be too tough. During the wheat harvest and autumn harvest, because she couldn't do the farm work, she thought that the people in the cowshed were here to work, so she asked them to help with some work, but Secretary Zhao, who was passing by, heard her. It taught her a lot. She also wanted to return to the city earlier, so she really didn't dare to make the matter a big deal. More importantly, she knew that Li Zhan was back from vacation these days. If she made a fuss and brought the village cadres over, Li Zhan would definitely misunderstand her. Lu Jiqing, who came with him, became angry and wanted to have a fit, but Fu Qingye stopped him. Fu Qingye said weakly, "No? Then, forget it. Let's think of a solution ourselves. Classmate Lu, let's go." However, as soon as she turned her head, her face darkened. These people are so ignorant. Let's see, they will have an easier time in the future. This little episode has passed. When there was no one around, Shen Wanxue walked up to Yang Qiushi and whispered, "Old Yang, you are too impulsive. If she wants to get the fodder, let her get it. Why do you have to stop me? I think this Fu Jiqing is polite on the surface, but his heart is not open, so we should be more careful." Yang Qiushi also regretted it and said, "Oh, I just have a bad temper. Yes, other educated youths can sometimes help us with some work or something, but those few are so lazy that they come here every day to catch the autumn wind and don't even pick up firewood. I hope they won't freeze to death in the winter." Yang Qiushi said, turned around and asked happily, "Forget about these unhappy things. How is that girl Huan? Does she look okay? She has given birth to 3 little cubs, which is a big drain on the body." Shen Wanxue, he smiled and said, "I think they look pretty good." She also said that it would be difficult to hold the 3 cubs if they cry, but let's secretly go over and take a look at them at night. Yang Qiushi was so happy that he couldn't help but rub his hands, and he was happy again. She was worried again and said with a smile, "Oh, is it really okay for us to go there? Will it be seen by others and affect Huan and her man?" Shen Wanxue said. Huan said that the path is quiet, no? Who knows, it should be fine. After hearing this, Yang Qiushi felt a little relieved and couldn't help but said, "Oh, I have to prepare some gifts for the 3 little ones. I have no wife and no children. Just think of these 3 little ones as my biological grandsons." Shen Wanxue nodded and said with a smile, "Our families are really the same. Both of us have no children. It must be a pity for God to meet this girl Huan. I sent a goddaughter over." From now on, I will treat the three little ones as my grandsons. At around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the people who came to have dinner gradually dispersed at Xia Huanhuan's house. Yan Haotian also left because he had to rush back to the army. Time was so tight that I couldn't go back to Xiajia village to have a look this time. I had to wait until next time. Lin Yuru and a few good women in the village stayed to help clear the dishes, wash the dishes, and wash the pots. Aunt Wu also brought her young daughter-in-law Qin-Chi to stay to help. Seeing that Qin-Chi was pregnant, Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "It's been 5 months, right? I'll give birth to Qin-Chi next spring." He smiled a little sheepishly. Xia Huanhuan took Qin-Chi aside and refused to let her help. She already knew that Qin-Chi's grandma was Grandma Yao, the wet nurse who used to take care of Shen Wanxue. When she was pregnant in the county, it was all thanks to Qin-Chi and Grandma Yao who came to help Shen Wanxue. Aunt Wu smiled and said, "Your sister-in-law asked you to rest, so you can just rest for a while, just in time to enjoy your sister-in-law's happiness. By next year, let alone the 3 of you, you can give me 2 fat grandsons." Qin-Chi felt even more embarrassed and said shyly, "Mom, let alone triplets. Twins are 1 in 1,000. How can I be as lucky as my sister-in-law?" As they were chatting and laughing, the 3 little kids started crying again, and Xia Huanhuan hurried over to comfort them. Li Zhan was seeing off the guests outside. He came in after hearing this and asked with a smile, "Did you or this time? Or are you hungry?" As he spoke, he clumsily checked the diapers of the 3 kids. Xia Huanhuan wanted to take over and said with a smile, "Look at you, you don't even look like you can do any work. Let me do it." Li Zhan pinched the kid and hid in the air for a while, but the little guy, who was originally crying, started giggling. Li Zhan smiled and said, "Practice makes perfect. I'm rarely home for a few days. Why don't you behave yourself? Otherwise, when these 3 kids grow up, I won't be able to scold them with a stern face and say, 'Your parents raised you with great difficulty,' right?" Xia Huanhuan was so amused that she just let him do what he wanted. Li Zhan took a look and found that they had indeed pooped. He did not feel disgusted and simply got some hot water, wiped the 3 kids clean, washed their butts, and put on new diapers. When the 3 kids felt comfortable, they lay on the bed and twisted around hard. Unfortunately, they had not yet learned how to turn over, and using their hands and feet was of no avail. However, these 3 little ones are still very well behaved. They usually cry for a reason, either because they have peed or pooped, or because they are hungry, or because they bump into each other and accidentally hurt themselves. Anyway, Xia Huanhuan stopped crying after being held and rocked a few times. She is quite easy to take care of. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "By the way, you can make a small bed for them at home, the kind with railings so they can sleep when they are a little older. The children are still young and sleep with her at night. She is still worried that she will accidentally roll over and crush them." Another point is that Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei are now sleeping with Lin Yuru. Although the 3 of them are brothers and sisters now, they're still young after all. Xiaowu celebrated his 5th birthday in the fall, and Beibei will celebrate his 4th birthday in another month. After giving birth to the 3 little cubs, she has never slept with them. Children are sensitive, and she is afraid that they will feel sad and feel neglected. So she thought that even if she takes care of one of them later, she would take turns to sleep with them. Li Zhan smiled and said, "Okay. I will go to the mountain to cut some trees tomorrow to do it." Xia Huanhuan also told Li Zhan that she invited Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi to come over in the evening. Li Zhan did not hesitate at all and smiled. "Well, there is still wild boar meat left at home.
Cook a few more dishes tonight.
We haven't thanked Aunt Shin for the tiger head boots she made for our kids last time. And the matter of your 3rd child, if Master Yang hadn't diagnosed it early, we wouldn't have been caught off guard." Seeing that Li Zhan had no grudges in his heart, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but admire his character. She knew that Shen Wanxue, Yang Qiushi, and others would see the moon in the future, so she was not afraid of getting involved with them and helping them. Moreover, no matter what, she was just a peasant woman. Even if she was found to be close to them, she had nothing to lose. But Li Zhan was different. He couldn't predict the future, and with his identity and situation, if he deviated a little, he would make a mistake and be implicated. In such a situation, He could still have no grudges against Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi, and did not stop his wife from interacting with them. Xia Huanhuan asked herself if she was in the same situation as Li Zhan. She couldn't do this. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, I have already sent some to them at noon. I have just cooked the remaining pig's trotters with soybeans. They are just soft and tasty in the evening. I will stir-fry a few more dishes and it will be almost done. Li Zhan smiled and said, My wife is really capable. Xia Huanhuan found that this man is really good at coaxing people. But he is not just coaxing people. Every single thing he does is really pampering people. Being with him, I feel very at ease. I didn't expect that after traveling through time and arranged marriage, I could actually meet such a man. The two let Lin Yuru, Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei take care of the three younger ones in the house, and then went out to clean up. It was not until the evening that they were done. Xia Huanhuan started to cook. The winter bamboo shoots were freshly dug and fried with rabbit meat. Steamed pork with rice flour was also delicious, so she made a dish of it. Another one was scrambled eggs. There was also stewed pig's trotters with soybeans and a chicken soup with wolfberry and wild mushrooms. Strictly speaking, it was the first time for Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi to come to the house, but Xia Huanhuan was afraid that they would be more reserved if the food was too sumptuous, so she only had these few dishes and some multi-grain steamed buns. In the evening, Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi really came along the path. Xia Huanhuan had also made advance arrangements with Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru, so the family kept quiet. After closing the big and small doors, Xia Huanhuan introduced them to each other. Xiaowen often went there to deliver things, so Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi both knew him. Xiaowu and Beibei had rarely met. Shen Wanshue also brought gifts for Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, a talisman for each of them. However, the talisman contained a thin gold sheet with auspicious patterns engraved on it. Xia Huanhuan discovered this after Shen Wanshue left, and knew that Shen Wanshue really wanted to give it to the three little ones, so she did not return it, but put the gold sheet into the space, and gave it to them when they grew up, and let them carry the talisman with them. Shen Wanshue's eyes were always on Li Zhan. He really looked like Shenbong when he was young. But she couldn't be sure. She had been asking around for years, and she only knew that after the flood in Lijia village, the surviving families all fled to this county, but she couldn't find out any more specific places. When she went to the countryside, she was glad that she was in this area and could take her time to inquire. It's a pity that after so long, I still have no clue. As for similarities, there are many similar people in the world. How could it be such a coincidence that she met them so easily? The most important thing is that she didn't dare to ask too blatantly. In her current situation, even if Li Zhan is really her son, she cannot recognize him, otherwise she will harm him. When Xia Huanhuan saw Shen Wanshue looking at Li Zhan with blurred eyes, he just thought she was thinking of her long-lost son, so she went into the back room, took out the three cubs, and showed them to Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi. Shen Wanshue came back to her senses, quickly covered up her gaff, took one of the cubs, looked at the cub with a loving smile on her face. This little cub is so handsome, just as handsome as his father. Yang Qiushi also hugged the other one nervously and happily, smiling from ear to ear. Ouch.
Call me Grandpa.
I am your Grandpa Yang. Everyone sat down to eat. Shen Wanshue still couldn't hold it back and asked with a smile, "When was Li Zhan born?" Li Zhan said with a smile, "The first month of the year 1948. Shen Wanshue's heart sank with a thud, and she almost dropped the chopsticks in her hand. Her son was born in the winter of 1948, at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, so the time didn't match up. Really? The first month's birthday is well-deserved." Shen Wanshue looked pale and forced a smile, not daring to ask any more questions. Everyone said some common things again. Seeing that it was getting late, I was also afraid that Shen Wanshue and Yang Qiushi would go back too late. If someone found out that they were not there, they would break up due to something unclear. Shen Wanshue took out 3 small longevity locks made of pure gold, which were for the 3 little ones. Xia Huanhuan was about to refuse, But Shen Wanshue smiled and said, "It's just something to ward off evil spirits for the children. As the old saying goes, it doesn't matter if you bring jade or gold." Did you and Li Zhan have one at home when they were young? Xia Huanhuan, and after listening to Shen Wanshue's question, Li Zhan shook his head and said with a smile, "No, so there is such a thing? In rural areas, it is difficult to even have enough food. Not to mention jade, you can give your child a pure gold. The small longevity lock is something that only wealthy people can do." Xia Huanhuan felt vaguely strange. Ordinarily, Shen Wanshue couldn't be the one to ask such embarrassing questions out of the blue just because she gave the three little ones pure gold longevity locks. But why did she ask her and Li Zhan like this? Shen Wanshue saw Li Zhan shaking his head, and his eyes became increasingly sad. She was the only daughter of the Shen family, so she was the only daughter in the family, so her parents passed it on to her. She gave the Feng Pei to Xia Huanhuan a few days ago, but the Long Pei was given to her son when she fostered her that year.
Body.
But now that Li Zhan listened to her question, he didn't show anything strange at all. He shook his head and said no. It was obvious that he had never seen this dragon jade pendant before. Or it was the wrong person she had entrusted back then. The family kept the jade pendant secret and never gave it to her son.
But
other details were not consistent. Just because Li Zhan looked like her husband, does this mean that he must be recognized as a son? Moreover, he cannot recognize his current identity. Shen Wanshue suppressed her emotions and said with a smile, "It's okay if you don't have any. These small things are just a few blessings from the elders to the younger ones. You should treat them as if they are part of my heart. If you cannot refuse your subordinates, I will feel at ease."
yes.
Li Zhan originally thought the item was too valuable and wanted to refuse it, but after hearing Shen Wanshue's words, he had no choice but to accept it. Yang Qiushi continued, "After the Shen girls have given gifts to the little ones, it's my turn. The master doesn't have anything good, just a few pieces of paper he brought from the city that are probably useless, so he just looks down on them. Give them as gifts." As he said, Yang Qiushi handed the three yellowed papers to Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan opened it and got a jump. "I saw that these three useless pieces of paper were actually the property deeds of 3 shops. Moreover, it is the kind of house deed that is stamped and recognized by the country. These 3 stores are located in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, respectively. They are all drug stores with a history of hundreds of years. Master, this is too expensive. How can the 3 little kids afford it?" Seeing her refusal, Yang Qiushi couldn't help but blush and said in embarrassment, "Huanhuan, do you think the master is too shabby? This is for the little kids. Isn't that why you refuse to accept the gift? If you refuse to accept it, then the master will no longer have the dignity to be a master." After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan shook his head anxiously. "Master, I definitely didn't say anything like this. The idea, this is too expensive." She knows the future direction better than anyone at this moment. Looking at the addresses recorded on them, these 3 stores are all drugstores in prime locations in various cities. Although now, after being taken away, they were no longer considered the property of the Yang family. These 3 pieces of paper were nothing more than waste paper. But in a few years, when the policy comes down and these things begin to be returned to their original owners, this waste paper will be more valuable than gold. Then accept it. Yang Qiushi interrupted Xia Huanhuan's words and said categorically, "I, Yang Qiushi, have no children. From now on, I will treat you as my goddaughter, Huanhuan, and these little ones as my godson-grandsons. No matter how precious something is, can it be as valuable as my grandsons?" When Xia Huanhuan saw this, he was afraid that if he refused, he would hurt Yang Qiushi's heart, so he accepted it and said with a smile, "Since the master said so, then I will treat the 3 of them." "Thank you, master." There are still a few years left before these waste papers become treasures. She will keep them for now and talk about it later. When Yang Qiushi saw that the gift was given out, he was very happy. He really felt that the gift was shabby. Those pieces of paper were indeed valuable in the past, but now they are just a few scraps of paper. He couldn't help but ask, By the way, have you given names to my god-grandchildren? They're screaming every day, so we can't just call them Debao, 2 treasures and 3 treasures, right? Xia Huan and Li Zhan couldn't help but look at each other. They had actually discussed the names several times. Unfortunately, they didn't want to mention their first names. They didn't even decide on their nicknames. They just decided last night that the nicknames for the 3 little boys would be, for the time being, we call them Debao, 2 treasures and 3 treasures. I didn't expect to be disliked by Yang Qiushi today. Shen Wanxue couldn't help laughing after hearing this and said, if it is called that, it should be called 4 treasures, 5 treasures, and 6 treasures. After all, they have 3 brothers and sisters above them. Yang Qiushi shook his head. Is it so casual? Xia Huan. Li Zhan. Xia Huan smiled and said, Li Zhan and I are still worried about choosing a name. How about Master and Anne take a look and help us come up with ideas? After hearing this, Shen Wanxue immediately declined. How can this be done? How can we give such an important name to a child? It's better for the parents to choose it. Xia Huan rolled her eyes at Li Zhan and said, we really can't think of a suitable one. Li Zhan thought of a few. No. Weigua means founding the country, or aiding Korea, aiding Vietnam, etc. It doesn't sound bad, but you can find several people with the same name in the village. Auntie, Master, you are knowledgeable. Please help us think about it. After hearing this, Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi looked at each other and said with a smile, okay, let's help you think about it. You can decide whether to use it or not. After that, the 2 of them followed the path they came from.
Went back.
Here, Xia Huan and Li Zhan coaxed their 3 little ones to sleep, but they were still woken up several times during the night, feeding, changing diapers, putting them to sleep, etc. They were so exhausted that no one could stand up to them early the next morning. 2 dark circles under the eyes. Now Lin Yuru, Xiaowen, Xiaowu and Beibei sleep in the west room of the main house. Xia Shuangshan sometimes sleeps here, but most of the time he stays in Xiajiakan. After all, Lin Yuru can be said to help take care of his daughter and 3 grandchildren. If he even lives in his daughter's house, there will definitely be gossip in and outside the village. Xia Shuangshan stubbornly refused to live here forever, so Xia Huan had no choice but to let him go. Lin Yuru got up several times at night and wanted to come over to help comfort the child, but Li Zhan persuaded her to go back. Mom, I'm at home these days. Huan and I can take care of each other. Don't get up in the middle of the night and come over here to help. Take a few days off. When I leave, you will have to work hard. After several attempts, Lin Yuru had no choice but to agree. The next day, Li Zhan went into the mountains to cut down some bamboos, pulled them back, split them, and made a small bamboo bed for the 3 little boys. The bamboos were erected around them to make small railings, and the edges were smoothed. There are no burrs to prevent the burrs from getting stuck into the flesh when the little ones touch them. After it was built, Xia Huan was not worried. She put thick quilts inside and a knitted mesh around it to prevent them from bumping into each other or accidentally rolling down the gaps. Xia Huan asked Li Zhan to carve the remaining bamboo pieces into the shapes of various simple small animals, string them through ropes to make wind chimes, and hang them above the crib. The 3 little ones officially moved into the bamboo bed that night. The 3 little ones were attracted by the wind chimes above their heads that moved around when the wind blew, and sometimes collided with each other to make a crisp sound. They even cried less often. Quite a few. Li Zhan was looking forward to going to bed at night. These 3 little boys are definitely worthy of the name of bed bullies. They are not very big, and they sleep side by side. They take up half of the bed. He and Xia Huan occupy the other half. That's it. They have to be careful when turning over in the middle of the night for fear. Press until you touch them. It's fine now. They went to sleep in their own little beds. Then he and his wife could. Unfortunately, not long after they were happy, Beibei had already hugged his own little pillow and ran into the house happily. Mom, Beibei can sleep with Mommy tonight, Beibei said in a sweet voice. She had already moved a small stool to the bedside and climbed onto the bed clumsily using her hands and feet, and was still happily rolled on the bed several times. Li Zhen. Doesn't he just want to sleep with his wife in his arms? Why is it so difficult? Xiao, Cheng Yaojin came out one by one. However, seeing Beibei's happy appearance, Li Zhan couldn't bear to drive Xiao, Cheng Yaojin away. Xia Huanhuan was pregnant. After she was a month old, Xia Wen and the others began to sleep with Lin Yiru or Xia Shuangshan, and they never cried once. After the birth of the 3 younger brothers, they have never been jealous. Huanhuan finally arranged it. When he took them to sleep, the little ones showed the joy of children. What else could he say? He had to sacrifice his own fortunately. 2 days later, Shen Wanqiue and Yang Qiushi came over again at night. The 2 of them hugged the 3 cubs with infinite affection and teased them for a while, then smiled and said, Lao Yang and I discussed it and thought that the child was born in the winter, the cold was heavy, and it snowed that day, so the name would be like that. To add some fire, and also take the idea that a single spark can start a prairie fire, I chose 3 words with fire or sun. You can see if it works. After Shen Wanqiue finished speaking, Yang Qiushi continued. These 3. The characters are Yan, Yi, and Yao. If you add a star in the middle, they are called Li Xingyan, Li Xingya, and Li Xingyao. What do you think? Xia Huanhuan and Li Zhan looked at each other. Xia Huanhuan really likes these names. A single spark can start a prairie fire, which has a good meaning. Li Zhan also smiled and nodded, saying, It's good, I like them all. Xia Huanhuan held the 3rd of the triplets in his arms, while Shen Wanqiue and Yang Qiushi held the other 2. Xia Huanhuan lowered his head and smiled at the 3 little ones who were still ignorant. Xingyan, Xingya, Xingyao, please thank Grandma Shen and Grandpa Yang for giving you such nice names. From now on, you will be the 3 little sparks of fire in our family. Several people in the room couldn't help but laugh. The title Little Fire is quite appropriate. Isn't a newborn child in every family the little firebrand? The 3 cubs didn't know if they understood what the adults said, but they also kept laughing along with them, which warmed the hearts of several people. After sending Shen Wanqiue and Yang Qiushi away, Xia Wen and the others came over to sleep with Xia Huanhuan again. Xia Huanhuan was going to call Beibei to come over to sleep, but was blocked by Li Zhan at the door. Li Zhan said with infinite resentment, The 3 little brats can take turns to have 1 night each. It should be my turn tonight, right? Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, and then she met Li Zhan's burning eyes. She felt a little embarrassed, so she pushed him and said in a low voice, You're such a grown-up, and you still compare yourself with a child? You are shameless.
Ah.
Before she finished speaking, Li Zhan had already grabbed her hand and forcefully pulled her into his arms. He leaned close to her ear and whispered unhappily, You also know that I am such a grown-up now. I have finally come back for a few days. I know your body has not recovered yet. Can I do it to the end? Although Xia Huanhuan had a natural birth, it had only been about a month, so Li Zhan didn't dare to do anything reckless. But if the 3 little ones who had begun to understand things were not around, he could be more extreme. Just as Xia Huanhuan was about to speak, she saw Beibei behind Li Zhan running towards her excitedly, holding a small pillow. Unfortunately, the door was blocked by Li Zhan, so Beibei raised her head and frowned and asked, 4th uncle, don't block the door. Beibei wants to sleep with Mom tonight. Xia Huanhuan smiled and whispered, If you can convince Beibei, I will agree to it. When Li Zhan heard this, his eyes lit up and he smiled. You said it. As he said that, he turned around energetically, squatted down, and negotiated with Beibei. Beibei, be good tonight and sleep with Grandma, okay? Beibei tilted her head with a puzzled look on her face. Why? Last night it was Big Brother. Today it's Beibei's turn. Li Zhan coughed twice and it was a little difficult to speak. Beibei, look. You and the eldest brother and the second brother have all had their turns, but 4th uncle hasn't had his turn yet. It should be 4th uncle's turn tonight, isn't it, Beibei? Beibei thought about it, and it seemed to be true. Li Zhan looked at the expression on the little guy's face and thought he was convinced, and he felt very proud. Unexpectedly, Beibei suddenly said, That's not right. 4th uncle sleeps with Mom every night. Why do we have to take turns? Li Zhan. How can this sleep be the same as sleeping? Li Zhan had no choice but to continue to fool him. Beibei, look. Do you still want your mother to give birth to little brothers and sisters for you? Bebe tilted her head and pouted as she looked at Li Jian. She thought fourth uncle was a bit stupid. Fourth uncle, you are so stupid. Didn't mom just give birth to 3 little brothers for us? Besides, what does it have to do with fourth uncle if mom wants to give birth to little brothers and sisters for us?
Could it be?
Bebe suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Li Jian. Uncle, will you also give birth to a little brother or sister? Li Jian.
This.
How should he explain it? Xia Huanhuan almost laughed to death and suddenly felt a little sorry for Li Jian, who was at a loss for words after being criticized. Xia Huanhuan could not bear it and squatted down, saying with a smile, Bebe, be good, sleep with grandma tonight and sleep with mom tomorrow night, okay? Li Jian turned around and looked at Xia Huanhuan in astonishment. Bebe was a little disappointed, but still nodded sensibly and said, then mommy's words are binding. When Bebe went back with the pillow in her arms, Xia Huanhuan stood up and said, I'm not doing this to let you. Before he could finish his words, the door was closed and Li Jian picked him up and carried him towards the bed. After taking the photos, he had to wait 10 days to get them. Xia Huanhuan asked them to print 3 copies of each photo and then keep one set at home and hang them on the wall in a glass frame. She would also send one set to Li Jian and keep another set as a backup in her space. However, the negatives should be kept well so that you can develop the photos again when you want. In that era, taking photos was still a rare thing. A photo was equivalent to 1 or 2 days' salary of a worker who ate commercial grain, and it cost about 2 yuan per photo. In addition, if you wanted to print one more photo, you would have to pay an extra 20 cents. State-owned photo studios don't have the policy of offering discounts for large quantities, so this time I took 6 photos, which cost 12 yuan, and then I had to develop 2 more photos for each photo, which is 40 cents times 6, which comes to 2 yuan and 40 yuan, so a total of 14 yuan and 40 yuan. Xia Huanhuan knew that Lin Yuru would definitely feel sorry for the money, so she paid the money behind Lin Yuru's back and told her that it only cost $5 in total. The whole family left the photo studio and went to a state-owned restaurant for dinner. Lin Yuru was a country woman. Although Xia Huanhuan had lived here for 2 months while she was waiting for her baby in the county town, it was her first time to eat at a state-owned restaurant. She felt a little sorry for the money and secretly asked Xia Huanhuan, for old people like us, a meal would cost a lot of money, right? The photo just now cost 5 yuan. Why don't we take a bullock cart back to the village to eat? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Mom, don't worry about the money. With me and Li Jian, it won't cost much. Besides, the ox cart is slow, and it will take an hour or 2 to get home from the county town. Adults can bear it, but how can the kids bear to be hungry? After hearing this, Lin Yuru had no choice but to give up. She thought of the spacious house in Tunghua Lane and couldn't help missing it, alas. It's too early to go to the house in Tunghua Lane. Otherwise, we can go there at noon and cook our own meals there. Isn't it cheaper than eating in a state-owned restaurant? Xia Huanhuan has the key to the house in Tunghua Lane with her, so she can go there if she wants. But she was afraid that Li Jian would ask about the house again. She had told Lin Yuru before that she asked Li Jian's comrades to help rent the house, so it was cheap. If Lin Yuru let it slip and her statements didn't match, which would arouse Li Jian's suspicion, it would be difficult to explain. So she quickly pulled Lin Yuru into the hotel and evaded the question. During this period, Xia Huanhuan had also considered whether she should mention it to Li Jian and say that she wanted to buy the house in Tunghua Lane. But firstly, she had an excuse to live in the county town during the period of waiting for the birth of her baby. Now there was no need to buy a house in the county town. She couldn't tell him that she was reselling materials in the county town, right? Moreover, she still had a rural household registration. She needed a letter of introduction to come to the county town, not to mention buying a house and running back and forth. It was simply unrealistic. Secondly, even if Li Jian agreed without asking any questions, where would the money for buying the house come from? Wouldn't he have to figure it out? Instead, it puts pressure on him.
Or
he would tell Li Jian everything, including that he had space and unlimited supplies, and that he had bought this house a long time ago. In fact, think about it. She and Li Jian already had a child, and she also wanted to spend her whole life with Li Jian, but she couldn't make up her mind to really tell Li Zhan about the matter of the space. Therefore, I decided to keep it a secret for the time being. After entering the restaurant, Li Zhan asked first if there was Crucian carp and tofu soup, which almost choked Xia Huanhuan, who was drinking water. The waiter said yes, so I ordered that first and also ordered 4 happiness meatballs, Beijing-style shredded pork, sweet and sour spare ribs, pancakes, and millet porridge. Soon all the dishes were served. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei liked the sweet and sour pork ribs the most, and their mouths were covered with grease. The 3 younger ones saw everyone at the table eating, and they watched curiously. Then they stretched out their little hands to ask for food anxiously, but they didn't cry if they weren't given any. After all, they were not old enough to eat complimentary foods yet. They were just curious and wanted to put everything in their mouths to taste it. Li Zhan, Xia Huanhuan, and Lin Yiru took turns holding the 3 kids, allowing the other one to eat, and then they would switch. It was quite tiring to eat a meal. After dinner, the family headed home. On the way, Li Zhan saw a state-owned grocery store selling sugar-roasted chestnuts, so he stopped the ox cart and asked Xia Huanhuan and the others to wait for a while. After saying that, he went to the state-owned grocery store, bought 2 pounds of sugar-roasted chestnuts, wrapped them in 2 bags with old newspaper, and brought them back. Xia Huanhuan took it and looked at it. She remembered that when she was looking for chestnuts under the chestnut tree on the mountain yesterday, Li Zhan saw it all. He probably guessed that she wanted to eat some, so he stopped the car to buy some. She couldn't help feeling sweet in her heart, but she said something complaining. "We can pick chestnuts on the mountain ourselves, and we can fry them at home, but you just spend money recklessly." Li Zhan smiled and did not refute, saying, "Didn't we pick any this year? Let's go up the mountain to pick some next autumn and fry them ourselves. Try it while it's hot to see if it's sweet." Lin Yiru originally thought that chestnuts could be picked up in the village and on the mountain, and it would be a waste of money to buy those sold in the store. However, just as she was about to open her mouth, Xia Huanhuan spoke first. When Lin Yiru heard this, she thought her daughter was blaming her son-in-law. Wouldn't this make Li Zhan feel cold? So, he didn't care about the money anymore and said quickly, "Waner, didn't Li Zhan buy it for you and the kids? Why are you blaming him? Although we can find some at home, they are definitely not as delicious as those in the store. It's worth spending money on it." After saying that, Lin Yiru turned to Li Zhan and advised, "Li Zhan, don't take Waner's words to heart." Xia Huanhuan was peeling chestnut shells with her head down. At this time, the shells had been cut with a knife before frying to make them more flavorful, so they were easy to peel, and soon she peeled out a bright yellow chestnut and stuffed it into Beibei's mouth and gave one to Xiaowen and Xiaowu respectively, letting them peel and eat them themselves. After hearing Lin Yiru's words, Xia Huanhuan looked up at Li Zhan and smiled slyly. Li Zhan understood it as soon as he saw it. His wife didn't really blame him for spending money recklessly. She just said what Lin Yiru was thinking in advance so that her mother wouldn't be able to say anything. Li Zhan suppressed his laughter and said, "Don't worry, Mom. She complains about me every day. I used to listen to her and let it go, but I really care about her." Xia Huanhuan was very satisfied with the effect of this method. This is what is called saying other people's words and leaving them speechless. It seems that this method can be used more often in the future. Xia Huanhuan peeled another one and put it into Li Zhan's mouth, laughing, "You are the only one who knows how to complain." Then, she handed one of the bags to Lin Yiru, asking her to eat with her, and also peeled some for the 3 little guys to eat. Seeing that his wife peeled 2 but didn't eat them herself, Li Zhan got in the car, took the 2 little guys from Lin Yiru's arms and held them one by one, and freed his hands to take out a chestnut, peeled it, and handed it to Xia Huanhuan for her to eat. Xia Huanhuan was still holding Yan Yan in her arms, so she lowered her head and took the chestnut directly from his hand. Her lips touched Li Zhan's hand, making Li Zhan's eyes burn. Xia Huanhuan didn't notice these things. The chestnuts were very fragrant, glutinous, and sweet. They were really delicious. When the triplets saw that everyone started eating again, they opened their eyes wide, turned their heads to look at this and that, and were so anxious to grab them. However, because their hands were too short, they couldn't catch them. Unfortunately, they couldn't speak yet, so they could only make meaningless shouts of and ah
to
attract the attention of the adults. Seeing how anxious they were, Xia Huanhuan peeled the chestnuts and put them to their mouths. When the three little ones saw it, they quickly stretched their necks and opened their mouths. They didn't even have milk teeth yet, so it was impossible for them to eat. They just touched it with their lips and licked it with their tongues to taste it. Even so, it tasted sweet, and the three little ones were so happy that they danced with joy, and their little faces were smiling like 3 flowers. In the next few days, Li Zhan was still busy. Just like last winter, I went to the town to buy a truckload of loose coal, dug some yellow clay from the fields, mixed it with water and loose coal, and then pressed it into honeycomb coal using a mold. This year, because there were 3 coal stoves to burn coal, I bought a lot more, and it took most of the day to make honeycomb coal. Then I went hunting in the mountains. I didn't catch any big prey like wild boars, but I did catch a wild roe deer. I made the meat into bacon and sausages, which is enough to eat until the new year. I fried the offal and other things directly. I also cut down a dead tree in the mountains and dragged it home. I cut it into small firewood strips and placed them high in the shed built in the yard, which was enough for heating and cooking in winter. Even so, Li Zhan still felt that he was not well prepared and wanted to go hunting in the mountains, but was stopped by Xia Huanhuan. There's enough food at home. Even if it's not enough, you have so many allowances and tickets. I'm not the kind of person who doesn't want to spend them. You are not allowed to go into the mountains for the next 2 days. They were together more often than they were apart. It was not easy for them to come back for more than 10 days, but they hadn't had a good talk yet. Li Zhan had no choice but to give up and said with a smile, "Okay. I'll stay at home to take care of us kids for the remaining few days." As a result, the next day, Lulan took the opportunity when Li Zhan was at home and ran over. When Xia Huanhuan saw her enter the door, she thought that she was Li Zhan's mother after all, so it was not easy to chase her out. So she carried Yebao and Yaobao into the house, leaving Li Zhan holding Yanbao outside to talk to Lulan. Lulan's life with her second son and his wife was not easy, so she came up with the idea of living with a 4th room and letting Li Zhan take care of her in her old age. "Zhaner, I've been looking for you all day, but couldn't find you. Today you're finally home. Who are you holding? The eldest, the second, or the 3rd child?" Let Grandma hold him for a while. Li Zhan shifted his body, let go of Lulan's hand, and smiled faintly. "Mom, these kids are shy. They will cry loudly unless their mom and I hold them. Once they start crying, no one can stop them. You will be unable to say anything later because of their noise." Lulan listened and thought that what she wanted to say was more important. She was not willing to show her favor to Xia Huanhuan, so she took her hand back and said, "Zhaner, Huanhuan has given birth to 3 big fat boys at once. Although their mother is taking care of them, she is their grandmother after all, right? The grandmother of the 3 little guys is still alive. How can we ask their grandmother to coax them? The gossip in the village is so unpleasant." Mom was thinking, "Why don't you go to the commune and talk to Secretary Zhao and ask you not to separate from me? I won't follow your second brother and his wife anymore. I will just follow you and Huanhuan. Huanhuan, your new house is big, so I will move in and help you take care of the baby. As for Huanhuan's mother, if Huanhuan doesn't want her mother to go home, then let her mother live here with her. It won't cost much more food anyway." Mom used to be a little prejudiced against Huanhuan, but now I have thought it through. You have given birth to a child. What else can I be dissatisfied with? Zhaner, why don't you discuss it with Huanhuan and see if it's okay?" Although Xia Huanhuan went back to the house, she still paid attention to the movements in the yard. After listening to Lulan's words, she almost rushed out to curse. It sounds good to say that she wants to move in to help her take care of the baby. In fact, she didn't get the upper hand from Li Chang and Wang Guixiang, not to mention that she suffered, and she set her sights on her big enemy 4th son. From the tone, she hasn't moved in yet, but she already has the tone of the head of the family. What does it mean that if her mother doesn't want to go home, she can live here with her and it won't cost much food? Did she spend half a dime on food? What does the food in this house have to do with her? Moreover, she generously agreed Lin Yuru to live here, probably because she couldn't bear to leave her mother, the free and responsible nanny. After all, with Lin Yuru here, she can push the things of coaxing the baby and cooking to Lin Yuru, and even her own 3 meals a day can be ready-made. Xia Huanhuan didn't even have to think about it. If Li Zhan really agreed with Lu Lan, then after Li Zhan left, within a month, Lu Lan would have to ask her for Li Zhan's allowance and all the power in the family. Even if she didn't give it, there would be chaos in the future. In the past, she never mentioned Lu Lan in front of Li Zhan, let alone right and wrong. That's because she has never been completely sure of Li Zhan as a man. She holds this mentality, that is, if Li Zhan is too mama's boy, then she will find a suitable opportunity to divorce Li Zhan and live on her own. But now, with 3 children, her mood has naturally changed. Xia Huanhuan put Yabao and Yabao back on the crib, walked out, and said crisply, "I don't agree." Li Zhan would most likely reject Lu Lan's request, but not 100%. What if he agreed, and she said she disagreed? Wouldn't Lu Lan have a handle and go out and say that she was disrespectful to her parents-in-law? Her son had agreed to let her live with him, so why would her daughter-in-law say she disagreed? Therefore, she had to make her attitude clear before Li Zhan made his attitude clear. If Li Zhan still agreed to Lu Lan moving in, then she would have to move out with the kids. When Lu Lan heard that her son hadn't expressed his opinion yet, Xia Huanhuan had expressed it first, but now she was asking for help, so she could only suppress her anger, and whispered as if she was bullied by her wife. "Huanhuan, I know I treated you badly before, but I have changed.
Just give mother-in-law a chance, okay?
Even if you don't like me, Zhaner hasn't said anything yet. You are so eager to say you don't agree. Isn't it putting Zhaner in the middle of us and making him feel awkward?" Xia Huanhuan sneered. "Mother-in-law, you haven't even moved in yet, and you're already putting a hat on me. If I move in, I won't become an unforgivable evil daughter-in-law in less than 3 days? I'm putting Li Zhan in a dilemma? How do you know that Li Zhan will agree to let you move in? Is it because you are partial? Or is it because you can't even cook? If you really move in, I'm afraid it won't be you who takes care of our children, but I will have to provide you with food, drink, and defecation in addition to taking care of the children." Lu Lan was so angry that she couldn't hold her face. "You."
Xia Huanhuan.
"Don't be shameless. My son hasn't spoken yet. Is it your turn to speak?" After saying that, she realized her loss of composure, and her heart skipped a beat, and she looked at Li Zhan. Li Zhan had a blank expression on his face.
"Tanya, Mom."
"Mom didn't mean that. Mom just thinks women should listen to men, and it's not good to be too opinionated." Li Zhan interrupted Lu Lan with a cold tone. "Mom, I think let's forget about this. Even if Huanhuan doesn't express her opinion first, I don't intend to agree. Taking care of 3 little kids is very tiring. Changing diapers, washing clothes, and cooking every day, I don't think you can handle it. Don't make Huanhuan like the eldest sister-in-law and the 3rd sister-in-law before, who will have to cook and wash clothes for you later. That would be counterproductive. Besides, I also know that you and Huanhuan have different personalities. Even if Huanhuan cooks for you, can you feel at ease?"
Lưu Lan suốt đời.
She still remembered clearly the time when Xia Huanhuan took advantage of the fact that no one was around and pushed her down. If the meal was really cooked by Xia Huanhuan, she would not be able to eat it with peace of mind.
But
she was unwilling. As long as she can get through this door, in time, Li Zhan's 65 yuan allowance will still be hers. Xia Huanhuan can also find a reason to force him to leave, and then find a stepmother for the 3 little guys.
Tanya.
Let's leave it at that. Mom, don't mention it again. Li Zhan didn't allow her to say anything else, and ended the discussion of the matter decisively. Lu Lan was really desperate now. She always thought that her 4th son Li Zhan was easy to control. When she told him to join the army, he would actually go to the battlefield in the south to fight. She heard that many people died there, and even their bodies did not return home. However, Li Zhan packed his bags and left without saying a word. Later, she wrote to him asking him to send the allowance back, and Li Zhan sent it back without saying a word.
But now,
she just wants to live with him and let him take care of her in her old age. Why doesn't Li Zhan agree? After thinking about it for a while, Lu Lan finally decided to blame Xia Huanhuan for the problem. Li Zhan became like this after marrying Xia Huanhuan. It must be Xia Huanhuan's instigation. Lu Lan hated Xia Huanhuan to death. This little episode is over. Neither Xia Huanhuan nor Li Zhan mentioned Lu Lan again. Soon the day arrived for Li Zhan to leave, but Xia Huanhuan still prepared steamed buns with vermicelli and meat filling and sour beans and meat filling for him, and also baked a lot of pancakes for him to take with him. Thinking that he might not be able to make it back for the new year, he told Lin Yuru about it, kneaded the dough, made the dumpling filling, and made dumplings right away. There were two kinds of fillings, one with leeks and eggs, and the other with mushrooms and meat. In addition to eating the ones at home, a lot more was steamed, and asked Li Zhan to take some with him to eat on the road, or to eat after returning home. In addition, the sesame-filled dumplings were also eaten in advance, which made Bei Bei and the others very happy. Li Zhan carried Yanbao, Yebao, and Yabao back and forth, not feeling tired and reluctant to put them down. The next time he comes back, it will probably be a few months later. The three little ones must have grown up a lot. I don't know if they will still recognize him by then, and whether they will let him hold them. But now, the three little guys are very happy to be held by Li Zhan. The little hands tightly grasped Li Zhan's clothes. When she saw him, she couldn't help giggling. She even stretched out her little finger to poke the stubble on Li Zhan's chin. There was no sadness of parting at all. You have no conscience. Xia Huanhuan used the roe deer skins she had plucked from hunting this year to sew a close-fitting vest for Li Zhan, and asked him to try it on. The size fit him well. It's quite warm.
Li Zhan grinat.
How could it not be warm if it was made by his wife? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "It's good to be warm." After a moment of silence, she said, "The kids and I are at home, and we have enough food and supplies. We have enough money to spend. Don't worry too much." Li Zhan agreed, and also instructed, "As for my mother, just ignore her. If she comes to you again or goes to the commune to make trouble, just send me a telegram." Xia Huanhuan also agreed. Li Zhan thought for a while and said, "Even if you have nothing to do, send me telegrams often. Tell me which brat made you angry, which brat always cries, etc. I will write it down in a notebook and deal with them when I come back." Xia Huanhuan, who wanted to cry, laughed. "How can you beat up the brats who are only a few months old?" Li Zhan laughed. "Anyway, I will keep a record first, and when they grow up and become sensible, I will teach them a lesson together." Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but roll her eyes at him and laughed. "Really, is there a father like you?" No words were spoken all night. The next morning, Li Zhan left before it was dark. Xia Huanhuan was sent to the village entrance, and then she reluctantly returned. A few days later, something happened in the village. Somehow, several pieces of fodder for cattle were lost in the cowshed. 2 new calves were bought this winter, and there was not enough fodder for them. This made the situation even worse. Yang Qiushi reported the matter to the commune, and Secretary Zhao was also very anxious. Everyone was so anxious that they held a meeting and asked everyone to contribute 1 yuan from each household to go to a state-owned livestock farm a little further away to buy some fodder for emergency use. However, no one was willing to do so. The matter of feeding the cows and watching the fodder was originally the responsibility of several people in the cowshed. They didn't keep an eye on the fodder and let it be stolen. Why should we pay too? That's right. No one's money comes from the wind. Why should we pay too? Whoever is willing to pay can go. Anyway, I won't pay. With that money, I can buy a pound of meat, which is better than anything else. The villagers are not well educated and don't have any prejudice against the people in the cowshed. But when it comes to money, farmers just dig for food in the fields all year round. Even if they sell grain, the price is very low due to the unified purchase and sale, which is not comparable to industrial products. If there is no way to make money, can't you just spend every penny? $1 is really not a small amount. Secretary Zhao has no choice. If the fodder is not lost, the cows are not eating enough, and there is no grass to cut in winter, then ask the villagers to buy it for money, and no one can say no. But now that it was lost, he couldn't force the villagers to pay, so he could only go to the cowshed himself, pay 5 yuan, and let the people in the cowshed look for themselves, and then collect 30 or 40 yuan together to buy fodder. If they really don't have it on hand, they can borrow from each other. If they have relatives in the city, They can also write a letter and ask the city to remit some money. After Secretary Zhao left, the cowshed was a little silent. If it were in the past, a few dozen yuan would not be a big sum for them, and anyone could take it out. But in their current situation, where can they get these few dozen yuan? Shen Wanshue had small yellow croakers in her hand, and she could still exchange one for a few dozen yuan. But she was also cautious not to say it directly on this occasion. Although the people in the cowshed also get along day and night, they are not close friends after all. If she really showed her wealth, it is hard to guarantee that there will be no trouble. Shen Wanshue planned to wait until night, secretly go to Xia Huanhuan, give the small yellow croaker to Xia Huanhuan, and exchange it with her for a few dozen yuan. Alas, this matter is all Lao Zheng's fault. You said you were still on guard in the cowshed. How could someone steal the fodder? Now, it's like this. There are 7 of us in total. Even if we divide it equally, each person will have to pay 4 or 5 yuan. Where can we get it? Lao Li, who has always been stingy, couldn't help but complain. Yang Qiushi couldn't help but scold him after hearing this. Lao Li,
What are you talking about?
we are all together. Lao Zhang was unlucky that night. If it was you who was on guard, can you guarantee that you could keep a close watch? Another person said, Alas. If you ask me, it must be those educated youth who came over last time to ask for fodder as firewood. We didn't agree to give it to them, so they did something bad to us.
Right.
Why don't we go to the commune tomorrow to find Secretary Zhao and file a complaint against them and let those educated youth pay for it? Another person also said, Let's not do that. With our current status and situation, if we go and file a complaint, what if those educated youths turn the tables and say that we have received education, but have not repented? Then we will be left with nothing to eat, right? Everyone heard this and felt that there was a risk, so they kept silent.
Well,
Let's see how much money we can pull together and see how much fodder we can buy. If it's really not enough, we can ask the commune to borrow some first and then pay it back next year when we earn work points.
Shen Wanshue said.
Lao Li looked at everyone and still couldn't help but said to Lao Zhang, Lao Zhang, this matter was caused by your carelessness. Don't you have a son in the city? How about you send a telegram to your son tomorrow and ask him to remit some money over? We will make up the difference if there is any difference. What do you think? Lao Zhang was a loner and introvert. His face turned red at this moment. He looked up at Lao Li and scared Lao Li so much that he thought he was going to hit him. He couldn't help but take 2 steps back and said in a trembling voice, Lao Zhang, why are you glaring at me? Is there anything wrong with what I said? Ask everyone if they all think so. Lao Zhang lowered his head again and said in a muffled voice, I am responsible for my own actions. You don't have to pay for it. This whole of several dozen dollars. I will make up for it myself. If I can't make it up. Lao Zhang didn't say any more and suddenly stood up and went back to his room. Seeing this, the others dispersed. Shen Wanshue felt pitiful when she saw Lao Zhang like that, so after everyone else had dispersed, she took advantage of the darkness and went to the back door of Xia Huanhuan's house from the alley. After knocking on the back wall of the room where Xia Huanhuan lived, Xia Huanhuan knew that it was her or Yang Qiushi who had come. Xia Huanhuan went to open the door to the backyard and let Shen Wanshue in. He smiled and said, I was planning to go over to your side after I put the 3 little ones to sleep, but I didn't expect you to come over first. Shen Wanshue followed into the house, looked at the triplets who were already asleep, and smiled regretfully. Oh, if I had known I could have come here earlier, I could have hugged them. Again.
He turned around and said, Oh.
Madam, I came here tonight because I have a merciless request. After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan interrupted Shen Wanshue and said with a smile, Madam, please wait. As he spoke, he took out 20 yuan from his pocket and handed it to Shen Wanshue before continuing. I've also heard about the fodder being stolen. The commune asked you to raise your own money to make up for it. I'm afraid you and my master don't have any spare money. I originally planned to go over there in a while and send it to you. It just so happens that you are here, so I don't have to go and lie down. Xia Huanhuan figured it out. Wan Shui and Yang Qiushi each asked for 5 yuan, so 20 was enough. Let them keep the remaining 5 yuan as pocket money for emergencies. Shen Wanshua looked at the 20 yuan in front of her and was stunned, and then her eye circles turned red. In this day and age, 20 yuan is enough for a farmer to cover his expenses for a year. Even if Li Zhan has an allowance, the 20 yuan is nothing, but they don't owe her anything. She can't accept it with peace of mind if they give her 10 or 20 yuan for no reason.
Huan.
It's hard for you to even think of these things for me, and Lao Yang. Shen Wanshua said movedly. Xia Huan smiled and said, Auntie, it depends on what you said. Didn't you and the master already tell me that you regard me as your goddaughter and your little ones in my family as your grandchildren? Isn't it true that my goddaughter gives money to her godmother? Should it? Shen Wanshua nodded and said, Hey.
But
20 is not enough. Lao Zhang said he could repair the hole alone, and the other 4, starting with Lao Li, would probably not come out. Money. The other 3, even if they are figured out, I'm afraid they either have some small ideas or are not strong enough. It would be good if one person can come up with a piece or 2. Lao Zhang probably wouldn't even be able to come up with 5 yuan. Adding this to the 20 yuan given by Xia Huan, it didn't make up to 30 yuan and couldn't buy much fodder at all. Shen Wanshua found it hard to say it, but she still had to say it. She took out a small yellow croaker wrapped in a handkerchief from her arms and showed it to Xia Huan. Huan, here is a small yellow croaker.
Look.
Can you raise another 20 here? Xia Huan was stunned for a moment. I realized that Shen Wanshua planned to spend all the 40 yuan alone, but she didn't agree with it. People's hearts are separated from each other. Sometimes, being too kind may not lead to good results. If she really gave Shen Wanshua 40 yuan, how would Shen Wanshua explain where the 40 yuan came from? Xia Huan pushed the little yellow croaker back and said, Mom, it's not that I don't have the 20 yuan, it's just. There are so many people in the bullpen, you can't be the only one to pay, right? You're going to start this time. If something happens in the future, what will they do if they rely on you? If you refuse to help, some people will blame you for not always being kind. Shen Wanshua sighed. In a tone of voice, he said, Huan, I don't understand your concerns. It's just that I just saw what Lao Zhang looked like. Before he came to the countryside, I heard that he was the director of a factory, but he was criticized by his own son. After clearing the line, his son even came forward to approve him. Now, if he sends a telegram to ask his son for money, doesn't that push him into a dead end? I'm afraid something will happen. Help me. Lao Zhang is a good person. During the autumn harvest, he helped me with some farm work. Return it to me after he returns to the city. To the outside world, let him take it out in a few days and just say it was sent to him from home. Xia Huan still felt inappropriate after hearing what Shen Wanshua said. When I was thinking about any other good ideas, there was a knock on the back door again. This time the knocking was so loud that it could be heard even in the house. Lin Yu knew that Shen Wanshua and Yang Qiushi occasionally came back to see the little boy at night, so she didn't say anything about it. Xia Huan and Shen Wanshua went over to open the door together and saw Yang Qiushi standing at the back door with an anxious look on his face, saying in a trembling voice, Huan, see if you have these medicinal herbs here. It's an emergency. This is to save lives. As he spoke, he immediately reported the names of several herbs and how many grams they required. When Xia Huan and Shen Wanshua saw this, they did not dare to interrupt him. Xia Huan silently remembered the name of the medicine reported by Yang Qiushi, then nodded and said, I have it all here. Master, wait a moment, I will go to the house to get it. After saying that, he turned around and entered the back room. Eagerly next, he didn't forget to lock the door. There are only 3 little Zizi and Xiaowu in the room now. Xiaowu slept like a pig every night, so Xia Huan had no choice but to take a risk and enter the space. Fortunately, everything in the space can be automatically adjusted to whatever she wants, and the amount is also the amount she wants. However, in terms of measurement, she deliberately did not weigh it accurately. Otherwise, if the medicinal materials were found in such a short period of time and the weights were exactly the same, they would definitely be suspected. After getting the medicinal materials, Xia Huan took out a small scale for weighing medicinal materials that she usually kept at home. Here, Shen Wanxue waited until Yang Qiushi reported the medicinal materials before she dared to ask, "What's wrong? Did something happen to Lao Zhang?" Yang Qiushi sighed and said, "Oh, you can see it too?
I'm just worried about him."
I went to his room and took a look. Unexpectedly, I knocked on the door for a long time, but there was no reply, so I knocked on the door and went in. Lao Zhang was lying on the bed foaming at the mouth and taking medicine. After hearing this, Shen Wanxue felt sad in her heart. He was extremely anxious. "Oh, you are guilty. Lao Zhang is the same. Why can't you think about it so much? What obstacles are there that you can't get over in this world?" Yang Qiushi said. "Who says it's not the case? Fortunately, he took the medicine. I am knowing what the poison is and what medicinal materials can cure it. We can only hope that time is running out and we can bring him back from. Alas, those people who steal fodder are really bad things." While he was talking, Xia Huanhuan came over with the medicinal materials, weighed them hurriedly, and asked Yang Qiushi to take them back. Shen Wanxue left after a while, fearing that she and Yang Qiushi would make too much noise and be seen. When things got to this point, Xia Huanhuan thought for a while and said, "Andy, you said that Lao Zhang's character is trustworthy, and I believe you. But if you take out 40 yuan at once, it's still too much. Let's do this. You can use these 2 lend 10 yuan to Lao Zhang and tell him that you and my master saved the private money. I will go to see Secretary Zhao tomorrow. My brother used to be a quartermaster in the army. He should be able to get some cheap fodder. 20 yuan. It's probably enough." After hearing this, Shen Wanxue couldn't help but widen her eyes and asked, "Huanhuan, are you telling the truth? Is 20 yuan really enough?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and said affirmatively, "Auntie, don't worry. It's just this time and we don't need much. My brother will definitely find a way. 20 yuan is enough." Shen Wanxue wanted to give the little yellow croaker to Xia Huanhuan, but Xia Huanhuan refused. "Auntie, you'd better keep it yourself. This 20 yuan is what I want to honor you and the master, and it can also be regarded as a thank you for naming our 3 little boys. What do the intellectuals call that?"
"Run."
"Right what?" Shen Wanxue said with a smile. "You know a lot about brushes." Xia Huanhuan said with a smile. "You and my master are both literate. Didn't you learn it by just studying on the sidelines?" Shen Wanxue said with a smile. "Even if you say so, you know that 20 or 40 yuan is too much for me and your master to put here. If the thief who stole the fodder comes into our house again and steals the little yellow croaker, it will be another disaster. Huanhuan, just do it." I feel more at ease after hearing what she said. Still wanted to give the little yellow croaker to her, so she had no choice but to accept it. Anyway, she and Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi are indeed closer to each other now than they are related by blood, and there is no need to distinguish them so clearly. That night, because Yang Qiushi discovered it in time and administered medicine promptly, Lao Zhang saved his life. Yang Qiushi and Shen Wanxue didn't say anything about this matter. Others in the cowshed also slept deeply at night, and they didn't seem to notice. Shen Wanxue gave the 20 yuan to Lao Zhang, telling him that she and Yang Qiushi lent it to him, and asked him to take it out in a few days, saying that it was sent to him by his son. She also said that she had heard from villagers before that there was a commune that sold fodder cheaper, and you could buy it for just 20 yuan. After hearing these words, Lao Zhang was moved to tears. His son disowned him and drew a clear line with him. He never cried, but became even more dull. Unexpectedly, from a stranger, I would receive life-saving kindness. The next day, Xia Huanhuan went to Secretary Zhao to tell him about the fodder. 2 days later, Lao Zhang brought 30 yuan to Secretary Zhao. In addition to Shen Wanxue's 20 and Secretary Zhao's 5 yuan, he also added 5 yuan himself. The next day, Xia Huanhuan went to Secretary Zhao and told him that her brother could get cheap fodder. She has high-quality fodder in her space, and there is no need to go to Yanhaoyan to get it. Xia Huanhuan drove the bullock cart to a remote and uninhabited place, then entered the space, took out 8 bundles of good fodder, and placed it on the bullock cart. Such 8 bundles of fodder are made of peanut seedlings and high-quality forage mixed together. Normally, each bundle would cost 6 or 7 yuan per bundle. At most, you can buy 4 or 5 bundles for 30 yuan. Now, nearly half of it comes out to feed 3 cows, which is enough for the whole winter. Xia Huanhuan waited for another long time and saw that the time was almost up before driving the bullock cart back. The people in the cowshed were very happy when they saw that so much fodder had been brought back. But before leaving, Xia Huanhuan secretly told Shen Wanqiue and Yang Qiushi to pay attention during this time. She always felt that this matter would not end like this. The fodder is useful for feeding cattle and sheep. Why would ordinary people steal it? Those who steal fodder are obviously just being evil. Now that the first time didn't work, I will definitely try again for the second time. Shen Wanqiue and Yang Qiushi also understood Xia Huanhuan's words instantly and whispered, "Don't worry. We have already discussed it privately. We will take turns patrolling these days." The cowshed was happy, and the educated youth were a little bit happy. A few people over there saw that the cowshed had replenished all the stolen fodder, and they were very unhappy. The male educated youth, who followed Fu Qingye to ask for fodder last time, was named Lu Hao. He complained to Fu Qingye angrily. What a good thing like being able to buy fodder cheaply. They are really lucky. Humph. Let me take away 2 bundles in 2 days. How dare you not give them to us last time? Fu Qingye gave him a cold look and said, I advise you to give up this idea. I heard that people there are patrolling at night recently. Lu Hao is not convinced. Then let's just forget about it. Fu Qingye's eyes flashed coldly for a moment, and he said with a smile, What else can we do? How can you set fire to burn all the fodder and vent your anger? The speaker has a heart, and the listener also has a heart. Lu Hao's heart moved. 2 days later, the cowshed saw that no one had come to steal it after several days of patrolling, so they relaxed. Lao Li was on patrol that night, so he took a break from his duties and dozed off in the haystack. Lu Hao sneaked over, lit a match, threw it into the dry and flammable haystack, and left. It just so happened that night, when Yang Qiushi got up at night, he saw a fire in the hay shed and hurriedly called for someone. Everyone else in the bullpen was awakened, and quickly got up to put out the fire. Yang Qiushi was alert and found Lu Hao sneaking around nearby. Several people swarmed up and caught Lu Hao, who had set the fire. Fortunately, it was discovered in time. Otherwise, all the stored fodder would have been burned. Not to mention, Lao Li was napping in the haystack, and he was afraid that another life would be caused. The township attaches great importance to this matter and must deal with Lu Hao strictly. Speaking of which, troubles are always happening in the educated youth spots here. In just over a year, 4 or 5 educated youths have committed crimes. Therefore, Lu Hao was punished for attempted arson and had to spend 10 years in prison. When Lu Hao heard this, he was so scared that his legs were weak. He was just playing a prank. Why was he sentenced so harshly? In front of the villagers and educated youths, Lu Hao pointed out that Fu Qingye had instigated him to do this. How could Fu Qingye let him succeed in his complaint? He cried and said, How could I instigate him to do these things? I heard him say that he wanted to do this, and I tried to persuade him to calm down. Leader, my qualifications to return to the city have been approved. I will return to the city in 2 months, so I have no reason to tease him. Lu Hao was so angry that he vomited blood. He pointed at Fu Qingye and shouted vicious. But no one believed him, and he was soon taken away by the police. Xia Huanhuan was a little surprised that Fu Qingye was willing to go back to the city. Later, she thought about it, and it made sense. The few times Li Zhan came back, Fu Qingye didn't come over to show her presence. It was probably because she had caused a big commotion at the gate of the Educated Youth Center that time, and Fu Qingye was afraid that her reputation would be ruined. In this day and age, once a woman's reputation is ruined, her life is over. No matter how arrogant Fu Qingye is, he dare not ignore this point. However, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but wonder, given the Fu family's background in Beijing, why didn't Fu Qingye return to the city earlier? Instead, he waited for more than a year and suffered a lot before returning. She could only explain that Fu Qingye was still unwilling to give up Li Zhan and refused to leave. In fact, the truth is, just a few days after Fu Qingye came to join the team, She was coldly rejected by Li Zhan, who told her not to get close to him again in the future. At that time, Fu Qingye was indeed unwilling for some time. He thought that as long as he stayed in Li Zhan's village, he could prove that he was willing to follow him to endure hardships, be a farmer, and do farm work. Then, one day, Li Zhan will change his mind, see her good points, and divorce that country woman who arranged his marriage for him.
But
After going through farm work such as carrying water and sowing seeds in spring, Fu Qingye wanted to return to Beijing as soon as possible. Although this is Li Zhan's hometown, Li Zhan is not at home all year round. What's the point of her staying here? It's better to go back to Beijing. So, Fu Qingye immediately sent a telegram to the Fu family, asking her godfather Fu Weixin to inform the Youth League office and approve her application to return to the city. Unfortunately, a few days later, Fu Weixin sent a telegram to her, telling her that since she had already gone to the countryside, she should stay there forever, just like other educated youth who had gone to the countryside, and only go back after serving the required number of years. Fu Qingye didn't expect that she was fine when she came here, but she couldn't go back. She was so angry that she cried on the spot by the telegram. Unfortunately, no matter how much she cried, she had no other way to go back to the city and could only stay here. Just 2 months ago, she realized that she had been here for almost a year, and her soft and delicate hands were now covered with calluses. If she had to stay here for another year, she would definitely go crazy. So she thought about returning to the city again. This time, she didn't dare to look for her godfather or godgrandfather directly. Her brothers were also ambiguous towards her, so naturally, she would not send them a telegram. She begged the Fu family's nanny, Sun Ma, to help her plead with Fu Weixin. Sun's mother is actually her biological aunt. At that time, Fu Weixin's wife Xiao Wenhui was an expert in agronomy and water conservancy. She often went to towns and villages to check the conditions of the river bends in each village and help the village, which was still a mutual aid group at that time, to build water wheels and repair irrigation canals. In places where the water flowed fast, she also directly helped build a water wheel that was more than 1 person tall, using water power to replace manpower, irrigation, mills, etc., which could be much easier. Xiao Wenhui met Fu Qingye's mother in a certain village. Fu Qingye's mother was named Sun Kaihua, and she was a widow. When Xiao Wenhui was repairing the reservoir in their village, Sun Kaihua was pregnant with Fu Qingye, a posthumous child. Xiao Wenhui often helped Sun Kaihua, and they became familiar with each other. Later, Sun Kaihua had a heavy bleeding during a difficult delivery. Xiao Wenhui hired a car to take her to the county hospital, but she still couldn't be saved. Only the child was saved, and that child was Fu Qingye. Xiao Wenhui heard from Sun Kaihua that she had no relatives and was also pitiful for the child who was born without a father or a mother, so she adopted Fu Qingye. After she finished her work in the village, she brought Fu Qingye back to the Fu family. Fu Weixin doted on his wife and naturally would not object to his wife adopting Fu Qingye. Although the 3 sons were more or less dissatisfied, they all said that they wanted a biological sister born by their mother, not a fake sister adopted, but they were still children, and their words were not taken seriously. Therefore, in the end, Fu Qingye was officially adopted. Half a year later, Xiao Wenhui was also pregnant. One day, a village woman who looked very similar to Sun Kaihua came and said that Sun Saihua's sister was called Sun Chunhua, Fu Qingye's aunt, that is, Sun Ma. Xiao Wenhui originally thought that Sun Ma was going to take her sister's child away. It took a long time to understand that Sun Chunhua couldn't survive because of the famine in the village, so she asked Xiao Wenhui to find a job for her in the city. Because Xiao Wenhui was pregnant and she was Fu Qingye's aunt, she left Sun Chunhua in the Fu family to help and take care of Fu Qingye. Later, after Xiao Wenhui passed away, only the men were left in the Fu family, and Fu Qingye was basically raised by Sun Chunhua. Fu Qingye sent a telegram to Sun Chunhua, asking her to help plead with Fu Weixin to let her go back to the city. Sun Chunhua went to Fu Weixin and pulled Xiao Wenhui out, saying, "Commander Fu, Qingye is still passionate about going to the countryside to build the countryside. But she is a girl who grew up in the city after all, and it is normal that she can't stand the hardships in the countryside. She sent a telegram saying that she was sick and had no one to take care of her, so she wanted to go home quickly. Commander, I know you have principles and don't want to open a back door for Qingye. But if Sister Wenhui is still alive, she certainly wouldn't want to see Qingye sick and no one to take care of her. Fu Weixin felt uncomfortable when he heard her mention Xiao Wenhui, but thinking that Fu Qingye was adopted by Wenhui, he finally gave in. This is why Fu Qingye was able to return to the city after only 1 year in the countryside. Xia Huanhuan didn't know all this. However, no matter how Fu Qingye got the chance to return to the city, it had nothing to do with her. It would be better for her to go back. If she stays in the village, who knows what trouble she might cause. Lu Hao said that it was Fu Qingye who instigated him to set the fire, although no one believed it. But looking at Fu Qingye's expression, Xia Huanhuan was inclined to believe it. This Fu Qingye is not as pure as she appears to be. It's a pity that Fu Qingye was not caught on the spot like Lu Hao. Lu Hao was arrested by the police, and all the onlookers in the village dispersed. Fu Qingye looked at Xia Huanhuan's background gloomily. Humph. Don't think that she will let Xia Huanhuan go just because she returns to the city. Before returning to the city, she prepared a big gift for Xia Huanhuan. The matter in the cowshed came to an end, and Xia Huanhuan quickly put Fu Qingye's matter behind her. After all, she had 6 little kids to take care of at home. So who was Fu Qingye? Was he worth her even a second's thought? In a few days, it will be Beibei's 4th birthday, and Xia Huanhuan plans to make a cake by herself to celebrate for her. It's the birthdays of the little ones at home, and Xia Huanhuan plans to celebrate them all. Xiaowen's 6th birthday and Xiao's 5th birthday in August and September were both celebrated, so Beibei's birthday naturally had to be celebrated as well. Making cakes is inseparable from milk and eggs after the wheat harvest and farm work such as carrying water and manure. Fu Qingye had no energy left. When they rushed over, they saw Lu Hao acting sneaky and immediately grabbed him while shouting loudly. Soon everyone else in the cowshed came out, and they worked together to put out the fire. Secretary Zhao asked cautiously, "Comrade, I want to ask why we suddenly want to check over there?" Those comrades have been in our commune for a long time. They feed cattle and do farm work. They're also very active and responsible. There should be no problem. Unfortunately, Secretary Zhao's words were useless. A team leader named Li came over and said, "Old Secretary, there is no way you can tell me about this. We have received the letter, and we can't just ignore it, right? Let's check it out, so that everyone can feel at ease." Secretary Zhao had no choice but to take them to the east of the village. Xia Huanhuan was about to come to the commune. She knitted a new sweater for Li Zhan and a pair of boots made of roe deer skin. In addition, there were some dried red dates, peanuts, some winter bamboo shoots, and some wolfberries and wild chrysanthemums picked from the mountains that were dried and can be used to make tea. They were to be sent to Li Zhan. In addition, the 100-day photos of Yan Baoi Baoyao Bao were also taken and developed. Each of them had a single photo, and another photo of the 3 brothers was also to be sent. The 3 little guys are now more than 3 months old. They are beautiful and delicate, much more beautiful than when they were just born. Moreover, because they are identical triplets, they are growing more and more alike. Sometimes Xia Huanhuan can't recognize which one is which at once, so she puts different colored bracelets and small baskets carved from peach pits on their chubby little wrists to distinguish them. Li Zhan should be very happy to see their photos. The postman comes to the village every few days. He is coming tomorrow, so she doesn't have to make a special trip to the town. Before she got there, she saw Secretary Zhao leading 5 or 6 people towards a place where Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi lived. She thought about it for a while and couldn't help feeling a little anxious. The last time the fodder was stolen, Shen Wanxue had taken out small yellow croakers for her. Moreover, in the past year or so, Shen Wanxue has given her and the little ones at home a lot of jade pendants and gold ornaments. Xia Huanhuan guessed that these things should be kept by Grandma Yao, and Shen Wanxue would ask Grandma Yao to send some when needed. But Xia Huanhuan was still afraid that Shen Wanxue still had some emergency supplies. And Yang Qiushi, Xia Huanhuan knew that he should have a few ancient Chinese medical books, which he loved so much that he was reluctant to lend them to her. He treasured them very much. When Yang Qiushi came out of the city, he didn't take anything else, only these ancient Chinese medical books and the title deed of his family shop, which he secretly sewed into the lining of his clothes and brought out. They must be notified immediately. However, if I rush back home now and go through the small road, I'm afraid I won't be able to make it in time. Xia Huanhuan gritted her teeth and looked around. Seeing that there were no people nearby, she turned to a dead corner between the two houses next door and went directly into the space. When she came out again, she had already reached the back wall of the mountain where Shen Wanxue lived. Xia Huanhuan walked around the back wall and hurriedly walked towards Shen Wanxue's house. Fortunately, Shen Wanxue was in the house. Xia Huanhuan quickly explained the matter briefly. Shen Wanxue also got up from the bed and put down the work she was doing. She said anxiously, "I should be fine here, but it's old Yang's place." Shen Wanxue and Xia Huanhuan took advantage of the fact that no one was outside and quickly went over to knock on Yang Qiushi's door. Yang Qiushi was also in the room. When he saw Xia Huanhuan coming in broad daylight, he was stunned. After hearing Xia Huanhuan's words, Yang Qiushi broke into a cold sweat and quickly found the things he had brought from home and gathered them together. Xia Huanhuan said, "Master, if you can trust me, just give these to me. I will take them home and put them away. When nothing happens, I will take them back and return them to their original owners." After hearing this, Yang Qiushi did not hesitate at all and said, "Huanhuan, Master, why don't you believe me?" "That's..." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Master, don't worry. I am just a country woman. They have no reason to look for me, right? If they dare to look for me, I dare to yell at you." Although Yang Qiushi was still a little worried, he had no other good idea for the moment. Xia Huanhuan was better, so he wrapped all the things in a bag and handed them to Xia Huanhuan. Some things were originally placed in the cotton-padded clothes, but now the cotton-padded clothes have been taken apart. Shen Wanxue was not idle, and immediately found a needle and thread to sew Yang Qiushi's cotton-padded clothes back together. Otherwise, those people would probably be able to see it as soon as they came in. After putting these things away, Xia Huanhuan was still a little worried, so she asked Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi to look around their respective rooms again. It didn't matter. In the corner of the window lattice in Shen Wanxue's house, there was a small cloth bag. When he opened it, he found a piece of paper inside with some bad content written on it. Shen Wanxue's face turned pale. Where did this come from? I have never seen it, let alone written this." Xia Huanhuan's eyes flashed with shock and anger. Shen Wanxue is usually kind to others, so what kind of hatred is this? Want to harm people so viciously? Xia Huanhuan took the cloth bag and said, "Mom, don't worry. If we find it first, it will be fine. I'll just take it home secretly and dispose of it." He looked at it carefully again to make sure there was nothing else. After that, Xia Huanhuan didn't dare to delay any longer, so she went out secretly and turned to the back gable, planning to go home through the path. However, not long after she walked out, she noticed two people coming around to the back. There is indeed a secluded trail here, but the captain was too careful. "This place is so big, could someone really sneak away from here? What do you know?" The letter said that there is a trail nearby. "I'm afraid it's a bit fishy. Just wait, I'll definitely have to go somewhere else after reading this. There must be a reason for us to stay here." Xia Huanhuan felt a little nervous after hearing this. Sure enough, someone secretly put the things to be framed into Shen Wanxue's house and then sent a snitching letter, which led to this incident. Moreover, the person who wrote the letter knew about this trail, and he was probably someone from the village. At this time, voices could be heard in the distance. Xia Huanhuan felt a chill in her heart and hurriedly hid in a dense bush, then entered the space and teleported directly back to her house. Fortunately, her space has the function of teleportation. Otherwise, if the trail is guarded, wouldn't she be trapped here and unable to escape? There was no one in her room, so Xia Huanhuan just put Yang Qiushi's things in the space without taking them out. In addition, she quickly came out and looked inside and outside the house to see if there was anything that might be said. Those two people just said they wanted to look elsewhere, and I'm afraid they were talking about her place. Lin Yuru originally pushed the triplets' trolley to the kitchen. She was coaxing her children and cooking lunch in the kitchen. She heard the noise in the house and yard. When she came out, she saw that Xia Huan was at home. She was startled and asked with a smile, "Oh, when did you come back? I didn't even see you come in." Xia Huan prevaricated, "I just entered the house. Maybe it's because I walked lightly." "Mom, where did Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Bebe go?" Lin Yuru laughed. Said, "They all carried small baskets on their backs, went to collect firewood with Huan Yingying from your third brother's family and Xiaoyang Qiming from Zhao's family. These three little guys are really sensible." Xia Huan nodded. Said, "Mom, let me put away the bacon and rabbit skins, clothes and shoes made of roe deer skins, and eggs and meat at home. You can just stir-fry Chinese cabbage for lunch today. No steamed buns or noodles. Use white flour, not mixed flour, just make sweet potato noodles or corn flour pancakes." Lin Yuru was stunned for a moment and asked, "What happened so suddenly?" Xia Huan was also afraid that if someone came over soon, Lin Yuru would be frightened. It would be better to give her some air first, and then whispered, "Mom, I guess someone has sued our family, and I'm afraid someone will come over soon. But don't be afraid, don't panic. We are not afraid because of our integrity. The shadow is slanted. Besides, I have put away all the valuable things at home. If they ask about anything, just say that you are here to help your daughter take care of the children. Don't tell the truth about the food at home. They say they still eat whole grains and wild vegetables, but the son-in-law has an allowance and can occasionally eat some noodles. The most important thing is that we have some dealings with Aunt Shun and Uncle Yang, but no news about us can be revealed. The door in the backyard is mainly for the convenience of digging wild vegetables from the mountain. It has no other use." Lin Yuru had never seen this battle before, and her face turned white with fright, but she also knew that it was related to Xin Qingxue and Yang Qiushi. The relationship is fine if he is an ordinary villager, but when it comes to Li Zhan's identity, it is of great concern. He nodded immediately and said in a trembling voice, "Wanner, don't worry. Mom knows the seriousness and will definitely not talk nonsense." Xia Huan put all the bacon and other things hanging on the eaves into the space first, and even the room there were 2 coal stoves at home, and one that she asked Xia Shuangshan to take back to Xiajia village for use, and she also kept one. Neither Shun Wanxue nor Yang Qiushi found anything in their rooms, but Lao Li found $10 in his room. What can Lao Li say? If he had known earlier, it would be better for him to buy fodder when it was stolen, and he would be better off. After the forage incident, Lao Zhang stopped talking to him, and everyone else thought he was stingy and alienated him intentionally or unintentionally. The person was fine. Even though he was spoken to a few words, he was not taken away. Seeing that he didn't find anything, Secretary Zhao said he would take Captain Li and others away and send them away quickly. At this time, the 2 people who had been squatting behind walked in and shook their heads at Captain Li, which meant that no one had escaped from that alley during this period. Captain Li frowned slightly, led the people to the trail, and asked, "Where does this trail lead to?" One of the 2 people said, "I just took a trip and took a look. It can lead to on the mountain. You can also go to a nearby farmer's house." Captain Li said, "The letter said that they might have secretly colluded with the villagers in the village." Secretary Zhao, "To be safe, you can take us to check that farmer's house as well." Secretary Zhao got angry when he heard this. "Captain Li, it would be fine if you found out anything, but now you haven't found out anything, and you are going to our villagers' houses to check. What's going on? You check once and then leave, and it's fine here, but won't the reputation of the farmers be ruined? How can they hold their heads up high in the village in the future? There is no smoke without fire, not to mention that it was reported that the county had brought people to check. They can tell you that there is something wrong even if there is nothing." When Captain Li heard that a small commune secretary dared to challenge him, he got angry immediately and sneered, "Don't be so arrogant to me. If there is nothing wrong with your members, are you afraid of being checked? If you are not allowed to check, then there is a problem. I have decided to check it today. Let's go." He immediately led his men to Xia Huan's house. Captain Li is a sycophantic, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Even if he has nothing to do, he will often go to various villages to take a look and ask for money. He also knows that these top figures in various industries in the city have a lot of good things on hand, and they have always made a lot of money. But this time, he only found 10 yuan. Of course, he was not willing to give up. Secretary Zhao was angry and had no choice but to follow him because he was afraid that if he didn't follow him, they would make more trouble. So, he had to follow him quickly. Xia Huanhuan was not so easy to bully. If they wanted to investigate, they would be allowed to check in.
Dream on.
She blocked the door, with her hands on her hips, sneering, "You want to check my house?
Why?
I have 6 kids, and 3 of them are just over 3 months old. If they get scared and get hurt, will you pay for their medical expenses?" Captain Li saw that it was a very beautiful country woman blocking the door, and he felt a little itchy in his heart. He didn't expect that there would be such a beautiful woman in this village. If he found anything suspicious, arrested the person, and threatened him casually, wouldn't he be able to do whatever he wanted? With this dirty idea, Captain Li had to search. Secretary Zhao kindly reminded him what the man in this family did, but Captain Li didn't take it seriously. "This is outrageous. I will search your house today. Get out of the way. Otherwise, don't blame me for not treating you as a comrade and being rude to you." Xia Huanhuan sneered. "You can ask me to get out of the way. But I have to be frank. If you find anything today, I will let you deal with it without saying a word. But if you don't find anything, what will you say? Do you want you to ruin my reputation as a man?" Captain Li sneered. "What do you want?" Xia Huanhuan raised her chin and said, "Let me sign a document. If you don't find anything, you can go back and resign." Captain Li felt a little scared when he heard this. He had finally become the captain. The stakes were too high. Seeing his hesitation, Xia Huanhuan sneered. "What? Are you scared? If you are, get out of here. Don't get in the way at my doorstep." At this time, the villagers who came to watch the fun gathered around. Everyone couldn't stand the domineering look of Captain Li from the city and couldn't help saying, "That's right. If you don't dare to write, then get out of here. You think we country people are honest and easy to bully. Humph. Bullying someone because his man is not at home? If he doesn't dare to write a receipt, just break into Li Zhan's house, and I'll beat him to death. Let him taste how hard the fists of us countrymen are." Captain Li was provoked by this, and he was also thinking that no matter how powerful a country woman is, can she really turn the world upside down? Even if he wrote a receipt, if nothing can be found at that time, and then the receipt is snatched away, or if he refuses to admit it, what can she do to him? He sneered, "I'm afraid? What am I afraid of? It's just a written document, isn't it? Just write it. Bring me paper and pen." Secretary Zhao immediately asked someone to go to the commune to get paper and pen. Captain Li wrote the document in a dog-like handwriting. After Secretary Zhao confirmed the content, Captain Li and Xia Huanhuan both put their fingerprints on it. Xia Huanhuan then opened the door and let them in. Yan Yan, Ye, and Yao Yao didn't know what happened, but suddenly they started crying. Lin Yuru hurried over to pick up Ye and Yao Yao, and Xia Huanhuan also walked over to pick up Yan Yan and coaxed her. Zhou Qiuhe followed in, took Yao Yao from Lin Yuru's arms, patted him and coaxed him, and couldn't help but whispered to Xia Huanhuan, "Huanhuan, what did you say? How did you suddenly get into trouble with such a group of people?" Xia Huanhuan also lowered her voice and said, "It's not clear yet, but someone should be doing something bad behind the scenes and sending some letters out." Zhou Qiuhe listened and whispered, "Don't be afraid. Fourth brother is not at home, but Li Jie is here. Let's see if they dare to do anything reckless." Xia Huanhuan was grateful and said, "Well, with third brother here, I feel more at ease." As she said, she followed them into the house with Yan Yan in her arms and watched them check. He is so arrogant. It is hard to guarantee that he will not secretly put something in her room and then say it is hers, and she will be speechless at that time. Sure enough, after a while, Xia Huanhuan saw a man sneakily taking something out of his arms and trying to put it into the gap between the table and the wall in the main room. Xia Huanhuan caught the man on the spot. Secretary Zhao said seriously, "Captain Li, if your people are so unruly again, I can report it to the higher-ups." Captain Li was embarrassed and glared at the man fiercely, but He didn't dare to mess around anymore. After searching once, he even checked the rice that was cooking in the kitchen pot. He also asked Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei a few words, but the three kids knew that these people were bad guys and said they didn't know. In the end, nothing was found. Xia Huanhuan said coldly, "Captain Li, keep your word. Please resign when you return to the city." Captain Li was angry and suddenly rushed towards Xia Huanhuan, but was blocked by several villagers who had been on guard against him. "Hey, what do you want to do?" Captain Li didn't dare to act rashly and gritted his teeth and said, "Give me the receipt I just wrote, and I won't pursue what happened today. Otherwise." Humph.
Ouch.
Before he finished speaking, Li Jie's fist had hit his nose all of a sudden, and blood immediately flowed. Captain Li was stunned, holding his nose. Someone actually dared to hit him. Yuda, how can you hit someone?" Li Jie said angrily. "I'm hitting you, a bad apple. Seeing that my fourth brother is not at home, you bully other people's women and children? You haven't found anything yet, and you still want to get the evidence back? Why don't you go to heaven? Get out of here as soon as possible. Otherwise, I will beat you to a pulp." Captain Li saw that Li Jie was 1.8 meters tall and very strong, so he didn't dare to confront him head-on. He quickly led his people away, and before leaving, he didn't forget to say harshly, "Just wait for me." Secretary Zhao was very angry. "Who are you?" "Li Zhan's wife. You have been wronged. I will report to the higher-ups in 2 days. We can't let these bad apples bully others." This matter was over for Xia Huanhuan. As for whether Captain Li would really resign when he returned, she didn't care and couldn't control it. If he dared to provoke her again, don't blame her for taking the written documents to the county town to seek justice. However, this matter had follow-up in other places. Xia Huanhuan thought that this matter had passed, so she didn't send a telegram to tell Li Zhan. However, Li Jie was still afraid that Captain Li would retaliate in the future, so it would be better to tell Li Zhan. Therefore, a telegram was sent to Li Zhan the next day. The telegram had to be transferred, and it was not delivered to Li Zhan until 2 or 3 days later. After reading it, Li Zhan's face was as gloomy as water, but he couldn't show any emotion. Bai Zihan originally thought that it was some ambiguous interactive telegram between the couple, so he took advantage of not paying attention and took a look. When he saw that it was not a serious matter, he was directly furious. Where did this grandson come from? He even dares to bully his sister-in-law. He thinks his life is too good. He asked Li Zhan again, "Li Zhan, what are you going to do?" Li Zhan then raised his eyes to look at Bai Zihan, and his eyes made Bai Zihan shudder and began to mourn for that man silently in his heart. Li Zhan asked, "Old Lu, the deputy battalion commander of our brother battalion 2 years ago, who later retired, was just transferred to Mo County as the county magistrate last month?" Bai Zihan nodded and smiled. "Of course not. Didn't the old guy send a telegram to show off to you, saying that as long as your household registration is still in Qingshui village, he will be in charge and he is superior to you, and he also said that he would go to see your sister-in-law who you cherish so much when he has the chance."
Li Zhan Smila Drarelli.
Before old Lu retired, he always regarded Li Zhan as a good friend and opponent, but it was a pity that he always lost a little bit. He was seriously injured the year before last and was rescued from the brink of death. In addition, his parents were old, so they forced him to retire. His rank in the army was not bad after retirement, and he was promoted from deputy position to full position this year. Li Zhan sent a telegram to Lao Lu that day, but the telegram clearly stated that his wife was timid and asked him not to disturb her again. Lao Lu was very reliable. After receiving the telegram, he immediately asked someone to investigate Captain Li. How could he not work something that the deputy county magistrate personally inquired about? It happened that the police station had almost investigated Captain Li, so they directly submitted a report and applied for the arrest of Captain Li. The two lines merged directly, and within a few days, Captain Li was thoroughly investigated and arrested to be sentenced. The things he looted were naturally conclusive evidence. The police station line was naturally handled by Yan Haotian. When Secretary Zhao went to the county to make a report, he happened to meet Yan Haotian, who was there to handle something, so Secretary Zhao told him about this. Yan Haotian sneered when he heard it. He even dared to bully Yan Haotian's sister? He didn't even consider how much weight he had. Poor Captain Li was sobbing that he couldn't speak after being interrogated by Jiang Hai, and he didn't know how he had fallen into such a big trouble. Jiang Hai looked at him crying and sighed and told him, "Why don't you pick on anyone? Why do you have to pick on our boss's sister? Do you know who our boss is? He is a battalion-level chief of staff seconded to our county by the southern troops. In addition, do you know what our boss's sister's husband does? He is a comrade in arms with a new county magistrate of our county." Captain Li was stunned after hearing these words. Then that village woman? Oh my God! Why didn't she tell me earlier? Would I have troubled her if she had told me? Woo woo woo. A few days later, Secretary Zhao happily told Xia Huanhuan that Captain Li had been arrested. Xia Huanhuan thanked Secretary Zhao. From now on, at least Shen Wanxue and Yang Qiushi will no longer be disgusted by that rascal. However, Xia Huanhuan was still thinking about who the person who secretly wrote the letter to report was. She didn't throw away the things she found in Shen Wanxue's house last time, but kept them in the space, thinking that maybe she could find out who did it through the handwriting in the future. There are not many people who can read in the village, so the scope is actually very small. It is either those few people in the village or the educated youth points. Xia Huanhuan suspected that it was Fu Qingye, otherwise no one else would have a grudge against her. It would be fine if they wanted to frame Shen Wanxue, but they pointed the finger directly at her. However, she has no evidence yet, and after all, this happened after Fu Qingye returned to the city. Even if she wanted to confront her face to face, she couldn't. This matter can only be put aside for the time being. Fortunately, there were no more troubles later. Soon it was the end of the 12th lunar month, and every household was preparing for the new year. Li Zhan was afraid that he would definitely not be able to come back, but Yan Haotian took the annual leave and said that he would return to the village to celebrate the new year. This made Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru very happy, but they were also worried. They only have one house in Xiajie village. Where will Yan Haotian live when he comes back? Xia Huanhuan's house is spacious, with 2 wing rooms available, but what's the big brother living in the house of his married sister? Xia Huanhuan also felt that this matter was not easy to handle. She had money in her hands, but no matter how rich she was, she couldn't build 3 more houses for Xia Shuangshan overnight. Lin Yuru sighed and said, "Alas, your father and I have long discussed making more money. It would be best if we could build 2 houses before the new year, but unfortunately we still didn't catch up." Xia Huanhuan said, "Mom, if it really doesn't work, let your brother live with me. It's only a few days of vacation, so what if others gossip? Isn't he my brother?" Since they recognized each other, Yan Haotian never mentioned the encounter with Xia Huanhuan in the black market, and Xia Huanhuan was sure that she would not mention it herself. Moreover, she had made up her mind that even if Yan Haotian mentioned it, she would play dumb and say that he recognized the wrong person. Lin Yuru had no choice but to look at Xia Shuangshan with some embarrassment. Xia Shuangshan squatted on the ground for a long time before saying, "Let's stay at home. No matter how ugly the house is, it's your brother's home, right? Let your mother come and live here, and your brother and I will live in Xia village. Your brother will sleep on the bed, and I'll sleep on the floor. We'll start building the house in the spring of next year." Xia Huanhuan knew that Xia Shuangshan was concerned about his reputation, so she didn't say anything and smiled. "That's fine. Li Zhan won't come back this year, so I'll go home too, and we'll have a reunion dinner at home." Lin Yuru knew that her daughter was trying to save face for them and didn't mind that their home was shabby, so she smiled and said, "Oh, your father, me, your brother, you, and 6 little guys, our little house can't accommodate them all." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "If there's no room in the house, let's sit in the yard. There's coal burning in the stove, and we can eat hot pot while roasting a fire and chatting about family matters." That's how it was settled. On the 26th day of the 12th lunar month, the commune slaughtered the big fat pigs weighing more than 150 kilograms raised in each village, and each family received about 4 or 5 kilograms of meat. Xia Huanhuan got less, only 2 kilograms after all. She didn't earn many work points all year. However, Xia Huanhuan didn't care. She took out a few more kilograms from the space, in addition to 2 kilograms of mutton and 2 large grass carps, and said that they were bought from the supply and marketing cooperative in the town. Now the weather outside is below zero, so the meat is hung outside to be preserved, and it will be used for hot pot after Yan Haotian comes back. As for the grass carp, Xia Huanhuan sliced the meat of one of the fish, then chopped it up, added starch, seasoned it with salt, sugar, soy sauce, etc., and beat it on the chopping board until the fish meat was sticky together. Then she boiled a pot of water, squeezed the fish meat out with the palm of her hand, scooped it out with a spoon, and threw it into the boiling water to cook. After a while, the white and plump fish floated to the surface of the water. Xia Huanhuan took out the fish and saved them first, so that they could be eaten in hot pot later. In addition, she made dumplings. The stuffing was diced mushrooms and bamboo shoots. The fat and lean meat were chopped into meat paste in a ratio of 3:7 and mixed with diced mushrooms and bamboo shoots as the stuffing. Because Yan Haotian came back, she didn't use mixed noodles, but only white flour dumplings. In addition, she steamed several pots of steamed buns with different stuffings. Meat buns are eaten by everyone in the family. Red bean buns, sugar buns, and red date buns are sweet, which is what the kids like. As the year was coming to an end, there was no more masonry work to do outside, so Xia Shuangshan took the kids to the mountains to hunt. They didn't catch any big ones, but they did catch a wild rabbit and a wild pheasant. It just so happened that the wild rabbit could be braised, and the wild pheasant could be boiled directly into chicken soup. As for the soup base for the hot pot, Xia Huanhuan planned to use fish soup. The meat dishes to be hot pot were pork, mutton, fish, and the Merlin luncheon meat taken out of the space. She planned to deal with the packaging in advance and say that it was sent by Li Zhan. The vegetarian dishes were white radish, Chinese cabbage, potato chips, winter bamboo shoots, and the wild mushrooms and fungus that had been dried before and soaked. In addition, Xia Huanhuan also used soybeans to sprout a lot of bean sprouts and made tofu, which could be used for both hot pot and stir-fry. As for the sesame sauce used as a dipping sauce, it was naturally sent from Jingshi. The preparations for the new year were proceeding in an orderly manner. Because Li Jie helped to take the lead in the last incident with Captain Li, Xia Huanhuan also took out a big wild rabbit from the space and sent it to Zhouqiuhe, saying that it was caught by Xia Shuangshan in the mountains as a thank you gift. On the 27th day of the 12th lunar month, Xia Huanhuan said that she was going to the town to buy some wool and other things. Taking advantage of the fact that she had nothing else to do after the new year, she wanted to knit a sweater for each of the children at home to wear in the spring, and then she rode her bicycle out. Halfway through the journey, she took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention and put the bicycle into the space, and she also went directly to the county town through the space. After giving birth, her business of supplying materials to the canteens of the county textile factory and the timber factory resumed, but because she had to take care of the 3 children and Lin Yuru also lived together, the frequency of supply was changed to once a month. There was no problem in winter, because the things could be stored. Today was the last time before the new year, and it happened to be the new year, so Lu, the purchasing agent at the textile factory, and Wang, the purchasing agent at the timber factory, wanted a lot of things. Xia Huanhuan prepared all the supplies at the old place first, and then waited for them to come and get them. This time, both sides asked for a big fat pig, 30 caddies of mutton, 30 caddies of beef, 10 caddies of bacon, 10 old hens, 300 eggs, 100 salted duck eggs, 200 caddies of white flour, 100 caddies of rice, and 20 caddies of dried goods such as mushrooms and black fungus. All in all, the total income would be several hundred or 1,000 yuan. Now Lu and Wang both knew that they were buying from Xia Huanhuan, so they didn't hide it from each other, and they all reported the goods together. In this way, the quantity they wanted was large, and the price could be cheaper. After Xia Huanhuan counted the supplies for them and collected the money, she was about to leave without waiting for them to finish loading. At this time, she heard Lu and Wang directing the people in their respective factories to load the goods while talking about the benefits of the factory, and she couldn't help but slow down her pace. "Old Wang, how is your factory's bonus this year? How much can it be issued?" Lu asked first. Upon hearing this, Wang the purchaser could not help but sigh and said, "Oh, don't mention it." What about the bonus? In previous years, we had to work overtime during the new year. But this year, there is too much snow in the Northeast and the raw materials from the logging site are stuck on the road and cannot be transported. Now we are almost out of wood. How can we work? If we wait a few more days, the whole factory will probably have a long holiday. Forget about the year-end bonus. I'm afraid we won't even be owed this month's salary. After Wang the purchaser finished complaining, he could not help but ask Lu the purchaser, "What about you? Your textile factory is not afraid of this, right? Your raw materials, cotton, etc., are all from the nearby communes. There should be no shortage of raw materials for the ones paid and sold, right? You have to work overtime during the New Year holidays, right? Anyway, it must be more profitable than our factory." Purchasing Lu also had a sad face. "You are wrong. Our factory is also short of raw materials. There are not many people growing cotton in our county, and we rely on the commune in Lin County for supply. As a result, the cotton in Lin County was bought by other factories at high prices in advance this year. I am afraid that we will also have to stop production. I heard that your factory director is reporting to the county and plans to cut down some trees in our county first as an emergency measure. I am afraid that your factory is better than ours." Xia Huanhuan's heart moved when she heard this. She has a lot of economic trees and cotton in her space. Now, these two factories are just short of raw materials. If there is a chance to supply them, it will be much more profitable than selling materials. However, she did not rashly tell Lu and Wang about her thoughts immediately. First of all, they are in charge of the canteen, at best they are logistics, and they may not have a say in this matter. Secondly, timber and cotton are both bulk products, and it is impossible to simply find a secluded corner in the county town to deliver the goods. Thirdly, the greater the profit, the greater the risk. If she is caught, it is not a small matter like reselling some food supplies, but a big matter of reselling economic raw materials. If she cannot ensure that everything is foolproof, she would rather miss this opportunity. Therefore, Xia Huanhuan left without saying anything. She went to the house in Tunghua Lane first, and then went directly to the vicinity of the town through the space. She rode a bicycle to the supply and marketing cooperative in the town to buy some wool, and took out more from the space on the way, and then returned home. Yan Yan, Ye, and Yao Yao were crying for their mother, crying like a rascal, and Lin Yiru couldn't coax them. She picked up one and rocked him for a while, then put him down quickly and picked up another one, and coaxed him in this cycle. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were also anxious and surrounded the crib. Xiaowen was older and could hold one of them to comfort him for a while. "Yay, good boy, you are a man. How can you cry when you want to? Be good, don't cry." Xiaowu and Beibei brought their favorite toys to their younger brothers to play with. "Be good, little brothers, I will give you my favorite little wooden gun to play with. Please don't cry, okay? Be good, little brothers." And Sister Beibei. "Sister Beibei will give you a handkerchief to wipe your tears, okay?" However, the three little guys were obviously crying annoyed. Even with the little wooden gun and handkerchief, it was useless. They still clenched their little fists and cried Wawa in grievance. Xia Huanhuan heard the crying from a distance and felt panic in her heart. She regretted that she had stayed in the county and town for too long. When Lin Yiru saw her coming back, she said, "Oh, you are finally back. The three little guys must be hungry and can't be coaxed. You should feed them quickly." Xia Huanhuan took Yao Yao into the inner room to feed him. The little guy stopped crying after he had milk to drink. After feeding Yao Yao half full, she quickly fed Yan Yan and Ye. After a round of feeding, the three little guys' stomachs were rumbling. They were full and tired of crying. They clenched their fists and fell asleep leaning against their mother. Xia Huanhuan gently put the three little guys on the bed, then walked out quietly, with regret and discomfort on her face. Seeing this, Lin Yiru smiled and said, "Silly girl, it's common for children to cry when they are hungry. In our village, sometimes we have to go to the fields to work, and there are many people who lock the kids at home and go out to earn work points while the kids are sleeping at home. There is nothing we can do about it. Don't feel too bad." After hearing this, Xia Huanhuan had to smile and said, "Mom, I know." Lin Yiru smiled and said, "But you have enough milk. You can feed 3 little kids. It's rare. Xia Huanhuan blushed when she heard it. Mom.
What are you talking about?
Fortunately, Xia Wen, Xiaowu, and Beibei are still young and can't understand. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing. Lin Yuru smiled and said, I won't say anything. I'll go to cook quickly. Only when the nutrition is enough can the milk keep up. Xia Huanhuan. Soon it was New Year's Eve, the day when Yan Haotian said he would come home. Early in the morning, Xia Shuangshan came over, together with Lin Yuru and Xia Huanhuan, holding the 3 kids, leading Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei, and went back to Xiaowan village together. With so many people coming over at once, wouldn't Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru's small yard be crowded? After putting the 3 kids on the bed and letting Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei watch over them, Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru went into the kitchen to prepare delicious food. The dumpling filling had been prepared in advance, just knead the dough and wrap it. But dumplings are not the main dish today. They can be eaten as the staple food when the hot pot is eaten later. Mainly, slice the pork, mutton, various vegetables, fish, vegetarian meatballs, vegetarian dishes, etc., slice or pick and wash them, and prepare them in advance. In addition, he cooked a pot of delicious wild chicken soup with wild mushrooms, wolfberries, ginseng slices, etc. The rabbit was braised, and in addition to green onion segments and seasonings, potatoes were added to it. The dish was bright red in color and tasted delicious, making people drool. When the family was busy, there was a sound at the door. Everyone thought that Yan Haotian had arrived. Xia Shuangshan hurried to open the door, but unexpectedly, it was Lu Hongmei with her daughter Xia Fangfang and 2 sons Xia Chunjian and Xia Chunhua, standing at the door with bitter faces. When Xia Shuangshan saw them, his face darkened immediately. After Li Cuihua and Xia Dazhuang sold his son to human traffickers and lied that he had drowned in the river, they were arrested and waited for trial. Xia Shuangshan tried hard to restrain himself and did not bother Lu Hongmei again. In fact, how could Lu Hongmei not know about such a big thing? Xia Shuangshan even suspected that even Xia Sanchi's family might know about it. Only he and Lin Yuru, 2 idiots, were kept in the dark for nearly 20 years, causing their son to suffer so much outside. He could never have dreamed that his own mother and elder brother could do such a heartless thing.
Why?
Just because Li Cuihua had a dystocia when she gave birth to him and almost died, she had disliked him since she was a child. He was the last one to eat and sleep, and he was always the first one to fetch water and do farm work. Li Cuihua kept saying that he almost killed her own mother every day. Over time, he really did it. He couldn't even raise his head anymore, thinking that he was a jinx, so he endured everything. Even when his wife, son, and daughter were bullied, he didn't come out to protect them. What was the result? His son was sold by his grandmother and uncle. His daughter's college place was taken away by Xia Fangfang, and his daughter was sold to marry Xia Dazhuang's eldest son Xia Chunjian. Xia Shuangshan wanted to beat himself to death when he thought of his cowardly first half of his life. However, even so, he did not lose control. Since the main culprits Li Cuihua and Xia Dazhuang have been arrested, Xia Shuangshan is afraid that if he beats people again and is arrested again, who will protect his daughter? So, he just waited for the verdict. Unexpectedly, this woman Lu Hongmei actually had the nerve to come to his door. Second brother. Lu Hongmei was scared from the bottom of her heart when she saw Xia Shuangshan's expression, but for the sake of her man and her daughter's future, she could only force the issue. Xia Shuangshan stared at her coldly and gritted his teeth and said, Lu Hongmei, who is your second brother? Your husband and that old hag sold my son and kept it a secret from me for so many years. How dare you come to my house? Lu Hongmei couldn't help but shrink back 2 steps and looked at Xia Fangfang as if for help. Xia Fangfang is a little disgusted with her mother for not being presentable. No matter how powerful Xia Shuangshan is, can he really hit people? If he really hit someone, that would be easy to deal with. She would call the police immediately and have Xia Shuangshan arrested. By then, in order to get Xia Shuangshan out, Lin Yuru and Xia Huanhuan might agree to withdraw the lawsuit and release her father Xia Dazhuang and grandmother Li Cuihua. In this way, her goal would be achieved. Xia Fangfang is already a junior in college, and will graduate in a year. She has a boyfriend at school, who is from Beijing. They have a good relationship and have agreed to get married once they graduate and are assigned jobs. Originally, everything was going well, and she didn't plan to go home for the new year this year, to be exact. She didn't plan to come back for the new year every year in the future. As soon as she graduated, she became a graduate of the Workers', Peasants' and Soldiers' University, a solid cadre status. She could directly transfer her rural household registration to an urban household registration and be assigned a good job. By then, she would be a city dweller. Moreover, the person she was going to marry was also a city dweller. As for these peasant relatives from her hometown, she would definitely cut off ties with them if possible. Otherwise, one of them would come to the city to look for her today, and another one would come to the city to look for her tomorrow. How would her in-laws view her? So it's best to cut off contact in the future. Of course, it wasn't completely cut off. My parents still had to send some money and food during the holidays, but they would save as much as possible when they met, and they also had to be on guard against them asking her for money to find a wife for their younger brother Xia Chunhua. Originally, her future life had already been planned. But as luck would have it, Xia Dazhuang's evil deeds were exposed, and he was arrested. Originally, she came from a good family and was hardworking, which made her very popular with the teachers at school. She was sure to be assigned a good job after graduation and had a bright future. Now, her father has become a labor camp prisoner for human trafficking. Not to mention being assigned to a good unit in the future, she was even afraid that she would not pass the political review next year and be expelled from school on the eve of graduation. If that happens, all her efforts over the past few years will be wasted. Therefore, Xia Fangfang had to come back. She must persuade Xia Shuangshan to withdraw the lawsuit and stop pursuing her father and grandmother so that her future will not be affected. Xia Fangfang showed a weak expression on her face. She suddenly knelt down in front of Xia Shuangshan with a plop. She said with red eyes, "Uncle, your niece kneels down for you. It was my father and grandmother who were wrong about Xiaotian's brother. But they were also obsessed with the idea of having food to eat and staying alive for the whole family. Please, Uncle, don't hold them accountable for the fact that Grandma and my father are your biological mother and brother, okay? Grandma is already over 60 years old. If she is sentenced to labor reform again, she will probably die in prison. Uncle, are you willing to bear the stigma of being unfilial?" Xia Fangfang spoke with great emotion and quickly turned around to pull Lu Hongmei and Xia Chunjian, Xia Chunhua, and whispered, "What are you standing there for? Kneel down in front of your second uncle and beg him not to pursue the matter." Xia Huanhuan watched Xia Fangfang's performance and couldn't help but sneer. This is really a shameless person who is invincible. Xia Chunjian and Xia Chunhua were still unwilling. Xia Chunjian shook off Xia Fangfang's hand and said indignantly, "Kneel down." Xia Fangfang, you don't feel ashamed, but I do. In Xia Chunjian's eyes, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were the two hardworking oxen of their Xia family. He never regarded Xia Shuangshan as an elder or his second uncle, and his attitude was always condescending. Now he is asked to bow his head and kneel down to Xia Shuangshan? It would be better to kill him. Seeing this, Lu Hongmei had no choice but to quickly wink at him and whispered, "Chunjian, if you have any opinions, wait until your father and your grandmother are released. Why are you trying to show off now? If this matter really affects your sister's college enrollment, how can you still expect your sister to get a city hukou and help you in the future? Hurry up and listen to your sister. Kneel down to your second uncle and beg him to let your father go." When Xia Chunjian heard what Lu Hongmei said, thinking that he would have to rely on Xia Fangfang in the future, he had to kneel down reluctantly. Lu Hongmei didn't kneel. She looked at Xia Shuangshan flatteringly and said, "Uncle, look, the children have all knelt down for you. You don't really want to be branded as an unfilial person, do you?" Xia Shuangshan clenched his fists, veins popped out on his forehead, and he was already shaking with anger. How can this be begging him? It was New Year's Eve, and his son was about to come home. But this group of selfish beasts were blocking his door, clearly trying to force him to submit. Sure enough, after the commotion at Xia Shuangshan's house, Many villagers from Xiajia village gathered around, and some nosy people even started to make trouble. Xia Lauer, look, your son has been found, and your eldest sister-in-law's widow and orphan are kneeling on the ground. You should be more lenient, but you really sent your biological mother and brother to labor camp? That's right. Xia Lauer, forgive them when you can. They are your biological mother and brother. Why do you have to make a fuss about them forever? Now that your son is found, quickly talk about the previous severance of the relationship. It would be great if the family could live in harmony. Xia Shuangshan was used to being taciturn, and after hearing what the villagers said, he became extremely angry. His face turned red and his neck became thick, but he just glared at the two people fiercely, unable to say anything to retort for a while. At this time, Xia Huanhuan came out with a broom for sweeping the yard. It came in handy when she swept Fu Qingya out last time, and it was very effective for dealing with these top-notch items. Without any prior notice, she swept the broom towards Xia Fangfang and Xia Chunjian, saying coldly, "Dad, why are there so many beasts kneeling at our door? Can beasts admit their mistakes? I think they are ruthless and have bad intentions. Otherwise, why would they invite their friends to come and take sides?" The broom used to sweep the yard was originally made of thin bamboo, and the top was hard and prickly, but Xia Huanhuan still used all her strength, and Xia Fangfang and Xia Chunjian couldn't help but scream. "You stinky girl! You dare to hit me with a broom!" Xia Chunjian stared at Xia Huanhuan with wide eyes, and was so angry that he wanted to stand up suddenly. But he was stopped by Xia Fangfang. The person who had just taken sides immediately said, "Xia Huanhuan, why are you speaking so harshly? Chunjian and Fangfang are your cousins after all. Why are you hitting them with a broom? And you're calling them beasts? And what about the rest of us? What about foxes and dogs? Why are you calling us so harsh?" Xia Huanhuan turned to look at the man and sneered, "Hey, isn't this Uncle Xia Wu from the east of the village? When did I say that Xia Fangfang and Xia Chunjian were beasts? Wasn't it you who said that, Uncle Xia Wu? And there are also foxes and dogs who take sides and speak for some worthless people. I believe that the people watching are very reasonable. My brother was abducted by his own grandma and uncle. They will definitely not try to persuade my father to make a small matter out of a big deal. If anyone wants to persuade me, don't blame my niece for being vicious, but cast a vicious curse, cursing that his son and daughter will also be kidnapped by kidnappers when they are young, and they won't be found for more than 10 or 20 years. Uncle Xia Wu has 2 sons at home, both of whom are only 4 or 5 years old. They felt very uncomfortable after hearing this curse. Country people are more superstitious, so they couldn't help but say angrily, "Xia Huanhuan, you are too vicious. My son is only 5 years old. What did he do to you? You curse him." Xia Huanhuan tilted her head and smiled coldly. "Uncle Xia Wu, why are you taking it personally again? Did I mention them by name? I mean those who are taking sides. Uncle Xia Wu, are you taking sides? You can't blame me then." Upon hearing this, Uncle Xia Wu was so angry that he couldn't speak. Thinking that this curse was directed at his son after all, he held it in for a long time and finally took out 2 yuan from his pocket and threw it to Lu Hongmei, saying, "Okay, I have lost all my face today. Don't let my son get involved. Lu Hongmei, I will return this money to you. I am not afraid to take care of your family's troubles." Lu Hongmei's face turned red and white. Wasn't Uncle Xia's words a disguised way of telling everyone that it was her family who spent $2 to get Uncle Xia to come and take sides? When the other person who was taking sides saw Uncle Xia running away, he quickly gave the $2 to Lu Hongmei and said, "Lu Hongmei, although I haven't married yet, I'm afraid that my son will be abducted after I get married. I don't want to do this anymore. I'll give you the money back." The onlookers couldn't help but talk. I have to say that Li Cuihua and Xia Dazhuang are too cruel this time, whose children are not the apple of their parents' eyes. Xiao Tian is their grandson and nephew. He was only 5 years old when they sold him heartlessly. Now they have the nerve to ask others to forgive them? That's right. If it were me, whoever dared to touch my son would just go to jail as a labor camp prisoner. It's too easy for that rascal. I'm not a man if I don't beat him to death. Li Tsuehua is she always picks on the weak. Xia Lauer is so unlucky to have such a heartless and biased mother. And the family took advantage of the fact that Xia Lauer's son was found to let go of the severance of the relationship and reconcile as a family.
Bah.
If anyone dares to say that to me, I will slap him in the face. After the villagers said this, everyone came to their senses. Alas, I just felt sorry for Lu Hongmei's family, and Xia Lao was too cruel and heartless. Now I think that Li Tsuehua and Xia Dezhuang should go to jail. They're just used to being selfish. They kneeled down in front of people's doorsteps and pretended to be pitiful during the new year. I almost fell for this family. Xia Fangfang panicked when she heard this. She had rehearsed several times with her family and the two people who were trying to take sides. How come in just a few words, public opinion went straight to Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan pulled Xia Shuangshan and said, "Dad, let's go into the house. Some beasts are willing to kneel. Let them kneel. Let's eat our reunion dinner." Xia Chunjian couldn't help it. He stood up, pointed at Xia Huanhuan's nose and cursed, "Xia Huanhuan, don't you rely on marrying a soldier? What can you do? Our Xia family's affairs are none of your business. I must beat you to death today. I see your man is not at home. Can he still fly over to protect you?" As he said, he raised his fist and wanted to hit Xia Huanhuan. Suddenly, someone grabbed his wrist directly and then twisted it with clever strength, and Xia Chunjian immediately howled like a pig. Xia Huanhuan looked up and saw that the man who grabbed Xia Chunjian's wrist was Yan Haotian. Who else could it be? However, Xia Chunjian, Lu Hongmei, and even the villagers of Xia village did not know Yan Haotian. Yan Haotian did come to the triplets' full-month banquet last time, but because he was busy in the army, he did not return to Xiajia village. He only went back after the banquet in Qingshui village. Lu Hongmei and Xia Chunjian actually wanted to come over to beg for mercy on the day of the banquet. They thought about making a scene at the banquet. In addition, Secretary Zhao also went to the banquet. Xia Huanhuan and Xia Shuangshan did not want to be criticized for being unfilial, so how could they not agree to withdraw the lawsuit immediately? Unfortunately, Li Zhan had already thought of the Xia family's few top people. He had asked his demobilized comrades to patrol the gate of Qingshui village in advance. If they met people from the Xia family's first and third families, they were not allowed to enter Qingshui village, not even passing by, lest his wife see them and feel annoyed. Therefore, Lu Hongmei and Xia Chunjian did not see Yan Haotian last time. Xia Chunjian shouted ouch and said with a lot of inside, "You let go."
Who are you? Oh.
I know. You must be Xia Huanhuan's little man with his own man. The face was painful and spit out of the bile, without controlling. But this was not over. Yan Haotian grabbed his arm in one hand to prevent him from falling, and the other hand was clean and powerful. Li Sua was released. Yan Haotian looked down at him and said coldly, "Xia Chunjian, if I hear you tell a lie about my sister again, I promise to beat you so hard that you won't be able to utter a word for the rest of your life." Xia Chunjian, Lu Hongmei, Xia Fangfang, and other villagers who were watching widened their eyes and looked at Yan Haotian in astonishment.
So, you are
Xiao Tian? The villagers asked hesitantly. Yan Haotian glanced at Xia Chunjian coldly again, which frightened him so much that he trembled all over. Then he retracted his gaze, looked around at everyone, and laughed loudly. "Hello, fellow villagers, you are right. I am Xiao Tian, the son of Xia Shuangshan, who was abducted and sold to human traffickers by my grandmother Li Tsuehua and my uncle Xia Dezhuang nearly 20 years ago. I believe everyone has seen what happened to my family, so I don't need to say more. Today, I will take advantage of the fact that everyone is here to say a few words so that everyone will not be fooled by some people and do bad things with good intentions. First of all, my father, Xia Shuangshan, had already signed a document in the commune to sever ties with Li Tsuehua. Now, with the incident of me being kidnapped, even if we are related by blood, the ties cannot be continued. To be more ruthless, even if my father agrees to continue, I will not recognize Li Tsuehua and Xia Dezhuang. As for the other members of the Xia family, they will have nothing to do with my family in the future. I hope that you guys will stop being peacemakers in the future. Secondly, Huan Huan is my sister, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru are my biological parents. If anyone behaves like Xia Chunjian in the future with a foul mouth and mean hands, don't blame me for turning against my neighbors. Is everyone okay with this? If not, let's go. It's New Year's Eve, so we should go home and eat dumplings. There's no point in freezing outside, right? After this speech, those who had gathered together just to watch the fun had no choice but to go home with a laugh, feeling bored. Xia Fongfong still didn't give up. The political and judicial review of the Workers', Peasants' and Soldiers' University was one thing. She saw Yan Haoyan wearing camouflage clothes and he looked like a soldier, so she couldn't help but want to curry favor with him. Brother Xiaotian, it's all my father and my elder brother's fault. I apologize on their behalf. Brother Xiaotian, if you don't forgive them, then I will kneel here today. Before he finished speaking, Yan Haoyan said to Xia Huanhuan coldly, Huan Huan, did you hear the dog barking? You really have no manners at all. Xia Huanhuan naturally knew that Yan Haoyan was speaking in a veiled way, and said with a smile, I heard it. Brother, ignore her. Let her bark at the door by herself. Let's go inside and eat dumplings and hot pot. Having said that, he ignored Xia Fongfong and walked into the Xia family's gate. Poor Xia Fongfong had just made a boast, and if people didn't forgive her father and grandmother, she would kneel down and not get up. In the end, no one paid any attention to her. Xia Fongfong was so angry that she stood up on the spot, turned around, and went back to her home in a rage. When Lu Hongmei, Xia Chunjian, and Xia Chunhua saw this, they had no choice but to hurry back. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru finally came to their senses at this time, and hurriedly, both nervously and happily, invited Yan Haoyan to sit in the yard. After everyone sat down, Xia Huanhuan added coal to the coal stove. The family gathered around the coal stove to eat fish soup, hot pot, mutton and pork, and boiled dumplings. While eating, Lin Yuru was afraid that the house was too shabby and Yan Haoyan would dislike it, so she said, Xiaotian, you still remember our house, right? You were born in this house. It's just, alas, your parents are stupid. They used to work like slaves for those heartless beasts. They've worked for 10 or 20 years, but they haven't renovated the house. It's still just this one room. You will sleep on the Kong tonight, and your dad will sleep on the floor. It's not easy for you to come back, so you must not go back to the army just because there is no room. Yan Haoyan smiled and said, Mom, don't worry. This is my home too. I've taken 3 or 4 days of annual leave. Where else can I stay if not here at night? Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru felt relieved after hearing what he said. Xia Shuangshan said, Your mother and I are saving money. Your sister also gave us 100 yuan the other day. When the spring comes next year, we will tear down the house and rebuild it. We will also build a brick and tile house with 3 proper north rooms and a courtyard wall. When the time comes, you won't be afraid of having no place to live when you come back to live. Lin Yuru also added, When the new house is built, when you get married and bring your wife home to show me and your father, you won't be afraid that our house will be shabby. Yan Haoyan couldn't help blushing a little, but fortunately he was thick-skinned and didn't see it, so he just responded vaguely. Then, he took out 200 yuan from his pocket and handed it to Xia Shuangshan. Dad, this is what I saved from my allowance in the army, almost 200. You and my mother keep it and use it to build a house. 20 big unity bills were stacked together thick. Xia Shuangshan saw it and immediately pushed it back. How can that be? We have money. Take your own money. Lin Yuru also quickly said, Yes, Xiaotian. Your father and I lost you, and we haven't compensated you yet. How can we ask for your money again? You will need a lot of money to get married in the future. I'm afraid your father and I can't help. But Yan Haoyan forcefully stuffed the money into Xia Shuangshan's hand. You take it. Don't worry, I have my own money. This is specially given for renovating the house, and there won't be so much in the future. Or, you are willing to take your daughter's money, but you don't want your son's money? Xia Huanhuan interrupted and said with a smile, That's because Mom and Dad have worked hard to help me take care of the children, and I persuaded them in every possible way and threatened that I would not let Mom help take care of the children in the future, so they accepted it. Yen Haotian laughed and said, "It's the same. This is given in advance. Dad and Mom, if you don't accept it today, then when I get married and have children in the future, I won't let Mom take care of our children." Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru listened and accepted it. At the same time, they couldn't help but secretly raise their hands to wipe their tears. As parents, they didn't stand up when they should have protected and taken care of their two children. Now that they have finally stood up, the children no longer need their protection. Instead, they give back to them, which makes them feel even more guilty. Yen Haotian continued, "There is one more thing. It's about my last name. I know that this is something that is taken very seriously in our village. My adoptive parents passed away 2 years ago. Before they died, they told me that if I found my biological parents, they would let me change back to my original last name and not care about them. However, after thinking about it for a long time, I decided to keep the last name Yen for the time being. My adoptive parents don't have any other children, so they only raised me. If I find my biological parents, I will throw away their last name as if they had never existed."
I would feel guilty about that. This is what I think.
Before I get married and have children, my last name is Yen. When I have children in the future, half of them will be surnamed Xia, and the other half will be surnamed Yen. After the surname Yen is passed down, I will change my surname back to Xia. I hope you, Mom and Dad, will agree to this." Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru were excited when they heard this, and they nodded immediately and said, "They have raised our sons so well. What else can we expect? Besides, whether your last name is Xia or Yen, aren't you still our son?" Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru discussed Yen Haotian's name in private several times. Country people are very concerned about incense. Their own son has someone else's surname instead of theirs, so they will definitely be laughed at by others. Although the two were grateful to their adoptive parents who rescued and raised Yen Haotian, they couldn't get over this hurdle psychologically. Originally, I planned to wait until the next time Yen Haotian returned to Xia village to trace his ancestral roots, and then talk to him about changing his surname back to Xia. They didn't know what to say, so they went to discuss it with Xia Huanhuan. Upon hearing this, Xia Huanhuan said, "Dad, Mom, I don't agree with you about this. If you force him to change his surname, where do you put my brother's adoptive parents? They didn't buy my brother back, but saved him from a human traffickers. To put it bluntly, their kindness to my brother is not comparable to the kindness you, Mom and Dad, have shown to my brother. I heard from my brother that they don't have any other children. If my brother didn't have the surname Yen, they would have been extinct. In my opinion, my brother is still my brother no matter what his surname is, right? Besides, how badly did Li Tsuehua and the other members of the Xia family bully you? The elders of Xia village are from the same clan, but they didn't come out to say a word for you, right? Surname is important, but not as important as family affection, right? Don't create a rift with the son you finally recognized because of this matter. Besides, I think my brother must have his own considerations, and you should respect my brother's ideas." Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru couldn't figure it out at first, but they convinced themselves later. But the two finally decided not to force Yen Haotian to change his surname back. Didn't they tolerate their daughter so much in the first half of their lives because they were obsessed with not having a successor and no one to take care of them in their old age? Now, God has sent their son, who is thought to be dead, back to them unharmed. If they continue to push for more, God will punish them for their greed. Therefore, Yen Haotian's decision is much better than what they expected. After their son has a child, they can change their surname back. Yen Haotian was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru to agree so straightforwardly. He was ready to argue with them and not give in, but in the end, he didn't use a word of his prepared speech.
"So,
you agree?" Yen Haotian stared at the two of them and asked hesitantly. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru were also confused by the question. They looked at each other, and then Xia Shuangshan asked hesitantly, "Is it? Not agreeing is better?" Xia Huanhuan on the side laughed out loud. "Dad, of course it's better to agree. I said my brother would definitely consider it thoroughly." When Yen Haotian heard it, He knew that Xia Huanhuan must have persuaded Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yiru behind him, and he couldn't help but look at her gratefully. The matter of changing the surname was settled. After dinner, Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yiru returned to Qingshui village. Yan Haotian and Xia Shuangshan sent them and the 6 little kids back and then returned to Xiaozhou village. That night, Yan Haotian really stayed. There was nothing special on the first day of the new year. Xia Shuangshan took Yan Haotian to visit every household in Xiajia village except Xia Dazhuang and Xia Sanqis, which was considered to be a formal introduction of Yan Haotian. On the second day of the Chinese New Year, Xia Huanhuan took the kids back to her parents' home again, bringing candy, pork gifts, etc., as a customary visit to her parents' home to visit relatives. Yan Haotian stayed for a few days and was going back on the 5th day. During these days, he also learned that Xia Fangfang replaced her sister to attend the workers, peasants, and soldiers' university. He was so angry that he wanted to send a telegram to his friends in Beijing to report the situation to the school. However, Xia Huanhuan stopped him in time and said, "I have already written a letter about this matter. There should be movement soon." Xia Huanhuan did not take the recommendation quota for the workers, peasants, and soldiers' college students seriously. In the years after the college entrance examination was resumed in a few years, those who were admitted to universities and graduated were the real pride of heaven, with high gold content. There are also many workers, peasants, and soldiers' college students who are the product of this era and are assigned back to agricultural stations after graduation. Of course, being able to change the household registration and eat commercial grain from now on is a real benefit. However, Xia Huanhuan looked down on it, but after all, it was something that belonged to the original owner. Xia Fangfang took it for no reason. So what? Where in the world is there such a good thing? She has always kept this matter in her heart, but there has never been a better time to deal with it. Now that Xia Dazhuang and Li Cuihua's affair has been exposed, if she doesn't take advantage of such a good opportunity, will she just watch Xia Fangfang get the urban household registration that originally belonged to the original owner and become a worker that the original owner should have been? However, Xia Huanhuan did not personally write a letter of complaint to the school. There were more than one candidate for the recommendation to go to university that year. There was another candidate in the commune who was in high school and 2 who were in junior high school. Their families were all active workers, so the possibility of being selected was very high. However, the commune's cow was lost, which was such a big thing that it was related to the commune's harvest next year. The original owner risked his life to go into the mountains and searched for the cow in the mountains for 3 days before he found it with great difficulty. Although the other 3 candidates were unhappy, the great achievement of getting back the oxen could be said to have directly saved the commune from hundreds of yuan in losses. No one could argue with that, so they had to admit it. But the 3 families acknowledged the credit of the original owner. The Xia family arrogantly replaced Xia Fangfang to go to college under her name, and the 3 families always had a knot in their hearts, and they felt indignant every time they thought about it. When Xia Huanhuan held a full-month banquet for the triplets, it happened that there was a high school student in that family, whose surname was Zhu. He was related to the Li family, so he also came to the banquet. At the banquet, Aunt Zhu held Xia Huanhuan's hand and kept complaining for her, of course. It was also because she was still indignant that her son was not elected, so she had not calmed down for several years.
Huanhuan,
Auntie is really upset for you. You said that your grandmother Li Cuihua and Uncle Xia Dazhuang are really good-for-nothings. They sold your brother, especially Xia Dazhuang. He said he had no food to eat, so why didn't he sell his own son? And Xia Fangfang too, what a thing. She even snatched away the college place that originally belonged to you. Auntie is really not jealous that her son was not selected. Huanhuan, if you went to college, no one in the whole commune would dare to say a word of dissatisfaction. Auntie, I won't have any complaints either. But if Xia Fangfang impersonated you, who can be convinced? Xia Fangfang didn't even graduate from elementary school. She doesn't work well in the fields. What merit did she have to go to college? Xia Huanhuan listened to Aunt Zhu's complaints with a smile and patience. At the end, seeing that it was almost done, she said gratefully, "Aunt Zhu, thank you for standing up for me after all these years. Alas, my parents and I have been bullied in that family for a long time. In fact, I am just lucky to have found the cow. If we really talk about qualifications, how can I compare with brother Xiaopeng who has gone to high school? Li Cuihua and Xia Dezhuang did it behind my and my parents' backs. After sending Xia Fangfang on the train, they said that they were the ones who made the decision for me to give up the quota to Xia Fangfang, who had already registered at Jingshi University. I was so angry that I cried on the spot. I thought to myself, even if I had to give up the quota, it should have been given to brother Xiaopeng, who is the most qualified, right? Brother Xiaopeng has a good education, and his family background is clean. 3 generations of poor farmers, no one has committed a crime and been imprisoned. Alas. When I think about it now, I am so angry that I cry. Brother Xiaopeng is Aunt Zhu's son. When Aunt Zhu heard Xia Huanhuan praising her son and saying that her son was the most qualified, she felt indescribably comfortable. She immediately held Xia Huanhuan's hand more affectionately and said from the bottom of her heart, "Huanhuan, you are so nice to hear." Auntie is not bragging. How many people in this area can graduate from high school like your brother Xiaopeng? Even those educated youths from the city can only graduate from junior high school at most, right? Alas. Your Uncle Zhu and I are not like other ignorant people. We sold everything we had to support your brother Xiaopeng to go to college. Who would have thought that the school would not recruit students when he was about to take the college entrance examination? Later, I thought that your Uncle Zhu and I had good backgrounds, so we worked hard to make progress and strive for your brother Xiaopeng to become a worker peasant soldier. Speaking of this, Aunt Zhu's heart moved. Just now Xia Huanhuan said that her family had a good background, 3 generations of poor farmers, and no one had ever been in jail for committing a crime. Didn't Xia Dezhuang and Li Cuihua commit a crime now? It's true that the Xia family used to be poor peasants for 3 generations just like her family. But now it's a different story.
Huanhuan, you said.
Your uncle and your grandmother committed such a heinous crime. They must be sentenced to labor reform. Doesn't that mean Xia Fangfang is the daughter of a labor reform prisoner? Then is she still qualified to go to college? Xia Huanhuan blinked her eyes and said in confusion, "Aunt Zhu, how can I understand this kind of thing? But I guess it should be decided by the school, right? If the school doesn't know that her father has been sentenced, it shouldn't have any impact." When Aunt Zhu heard this, her heart couldn't help but beat fast. An idea took root in her mind, and she couldn't get rid of it. That night after the banquet, Aunt Zhu ran back to her mother's home in another commune, found an acquaintance who could read, and secretly wrote a letter of denunciation and sent it to the school where Xia Fangfang was studying. Even if she reports Xia Fangfang now, this spot will never be given to her son, but at least she can vent the anger that has been accumulating in her heart for several years. Xia Huanhuan observed Aunt Zhu's expression and knew that she would take action. Sure enough, I went back to my parents' home that night. A few days later, Xia Huanhuan went to the town again and asked Director Zheng. As expected, she heard that Aunt Zhu's brother went to the county with her purchasing truck and went straight to the post office after arriving. It is still unclear how effective the letter that Aunt Zhu asked her brother to send secretly was. But looking at Xia Fangfang's outrageous behavior on New Year's Eve, there must have been some influence. Otherwise, Xia Fangfang would not have knelt down and tried to use the village's public opinion to engage in moral kidnapping. However, we may have to wait until school starts after the new year to see whether it is truly effective. Xia Huanhuan was not in a hurry and just waited for the result. Yan Haotian stayed in Xia village until the 5th day of the new year. However, he was not idle these days and went into the mountains to hunt. There was another heavy snow on the first day of the Lunar New Year. All the animals in the mountains were frozen silly, but no big prey was caught, although 2 wild rabbits were captured. Naturally, these 2 were sent directly to Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing when she saw the hare. I always feel that all the wild animals in the mountains were caught by her family. It seems that she will have to go into the mountains these 2 days and secretly release some of the wild rabbits, pheasants, wild boars, etc. in the space into the mountains to prevent others from being unable to catch them and then coming back to envy her family. Then I couldn't help but think of Li Zhan. When it comes to hunting skills, Xia Shuangshan and Yan Haotian are both pretty good. At least once they go into the mountains, they almost never come back empty-handed. But if they compare with Li Zhan, they are definitely no match. Just think about it. Li Zhan always knows where the wild boars and roe deer lairs are and how many wild boars or roe deer are in the lairs. Then, when necessary, he will raid the lairs directly. But they won't kill all the fish in the pond and catch the whole family. At most, they will catch the fattest one. If he had come back during the Chinese New Year, I'm afraid what he would have brought back today would not be a wild rabbit. Yan Haotian was quite smug. He grabbed the 2 rabbits' ears and asked for credit to Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru. Mom, Huanhuan, these are the wild rabbits I caught in the mountains. I braised them tonight to satisfy my family's cravings. If you can't finish them, make them into bacon and enjoy them slowly. Xia Huanhuan saw that he looked like he was about to praise me and tried hard to hold back her laughter. Lin Yuru took the hairs and said with a smile, "Oh, these 2 hairs are quite big, but there is no need to make them into bacon. They're only a few pounds of meat. If they were like the wild boar weighing more than 100 pounds that Li Zhan brought back last year, or the silly roe deer weighing 70 or 80 pounds, it would take some time to marinate and air-dry them into bacon and sausages for easy preservation. These 2 will be braised tonight, enough for the whole family to have a meal." Yan Haotian. What do you mean by a few pounds of meat? A rabbit must weigh at least 1 or 2 pounds. Besides, Li Zhan is only the son-in-law, but he is her biological son. How can a mother praise her son-in-law instead of her own son? Yan Haotian was in a complicated mood. Xiaowen, Xiaowu, and Beibei also ran over to see the hares. Beibei looked up